I'm not here alone. I'm here with, uh, I don't know, how should I call you? My brother,
That's correct.
my friend.
That's
I just
true.
met today, but I've already feel like there's so much chemistry between us. And
Exactly.
I just had to suggest right away that we should go ahead and do this.
Well, we are supposed to be ready in season
Yeah,
and out of season.
absolutely.
So, to give an answer, and in this case, we're giving an answer to our people
Yeah.
as to what it means
Mm.
to be united
Yeah.
and what we must do to
Yeah.
tear down the walls
Mm.
and the obstacles
Mm.
that prevent unification of Africans
Yeah.
for the development
Mm.
and the prosperity of Africa.
Yeah. I am really excited for this session because we named it Radical Truth, and the vision, or the goal is to make sure that everything we say here, it's radical and it's truth, because I think the world is in need of truth, to hear truth. There's so much lies
Mm,
everywhere,
very
and
good.
in this age of time, the media is pushing so much lies everywhere
Mm,
for
mm,
the aim of shadowing the truth. The truth is there; it's always there, will never
mhm,
change. But the lies, they're getting so much attention because um, of everything. You can talk about Western media, you can talk about everything, but it's important to have just truth, because I feel like Africa, African descendants,
mm.
they're pleading for truth. The world is pleading for truth, and also it's God's will for us to be right before Him and before the people. And I think it's very important to speak the truth. So before even we start this session, I would like to have a chance, give you a chance to at least introduce yourself for those who do not know you. Maybe they see you for the first time. Who are you? Where are you from? And why we're here today. This is gonna be really good, brother. Yes. Can I have your chance?
Okay, so uh, my name is Anthony.
Mm,
That's Anthony without an H.
mm,
Anthony Whitehead. I was born in New York City,
mm,
but at the age of 13, my father decided to go back to where he was from,
mm,
where my grandfather and my grandmother was from on my
mm,
father's side,
mm,
which was the Caribbean,
mm,
the Virgin Islands. Used to be the Danish West Indies,
mm,
uh, but since 1917, it's been a U.S. territory.
mm,
You know, we're talking about the truth.
mm.
I will just say this quickly before I
Yeah.
complete my introduction.
Yeah.
Scripture says you should know the truth,
Mm,
and the truth shall set you free.
mm,
The former Danish West Indies, which is now called the United States Virgin Islands, is a colony of the United States
mm,
of America.
mm,
The land of the free and the home of the brave talks about democracy, talks
mm,
about self-determination
mm.
and independence
Yeah.
and liberty.
Mm,
But America still owns colonies in the year 2023.
mm,
And I'm from one of those. I was raised there from the time I was a baby. And uh, my brother and I
mm,
was raised there.
mm,
Uh, and then my sister and my youngest brother
mm,
was raised with our mother in the United States. She was
mm,
African American.
mm,
So I am the founder and the director of Frontline
mm,
Missions. Don't gag on the word missions,
mm,
right?
mm,
The Apostle Paul was a missionary,
mm,
not the type that came
mm,
1500 years
mm,
after his time.
mm,
Um, we've had that name for our organization since 1998 when we
mm,
incorporated in Liberia,
mm.
West Africa.
Yeah.
And then we shifted to the US because I
Mm,
was living in the US at the time.
mm,
And then we shifted the registration
mm,
to the Caribbean, where we moved back to, and we've been ever since,
Mm.
until we returned home to our ancestral homeland,
Mm.
which is Alkebulan, also known as
Kebulan.
Africa.
I love that. Yeah.
So I'm also used to be an entrepreneur, but
Mm.
now I have to do that again,
Mm.
as I believe all true ministers must, so we can separate ourselves from all this noise
Mm.
surrounding
Yeah.
tithing and so-called prosperity gospel.
Mm.
I'm the father of 4 daughters,
Mm.
and we have my wife and I, Judy,
Mm.
of 36 years marriage.
Mm. Wow.
We have
Congratulations.
I look older and she looks younger.
36 years is
she's
not a
only
joke.
5 years. No, it's no joke. Not in this time.
Not in this time.
You know, not in this time.
No. Yeah.
And we have a granddaughter who was born, incidentally,
Mm.
in Aga Khan. So
Yeah.
she's born in Tanzania.
Oh,
We are so proud of that.
he's
fact.
Tanzania.
Yeah, man. Tanzania
Yeah.
in the house. So
Yeah. Mm.
we've come to stay
Mm.
on the continent.
Yeah.
We were planning to come 4 years after the time we actually came.
Mm.
But when COVID came,
Mm.
our plans were fast forwarded by 4 years, and
Mm.
we had to make that move.
Mm.
And so I'm so happy for the opportunity to
Yeah.
share. It's just a little bit about, I don't want this to be about me at all.
Yeah.
This is about radical truth
Mm.
and what it will take for us to unify truly
Yeah.
for the benefit
Yeah.
of Africans
Yeah.
and the African continent.
Absolutely. So I want us to talk a little bit about Caribbean, first of all.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Because I believe a lot of Africans who are having this conversation area,
Yes.
a lot of people who are living in the continent, they are not aware how much, how many of people are out there. And especially when you talk about Caribbean, a lot of people, they know about Jamaica, we're talking about that. They know about our people who are in, United States, or Brazil,
Right.
or Portugal. But Caribbean, I think a lot of people, they're not aware of that.
So you
So
really want to know a little bit more about the Caribbean. You think this is good, right?
Uh,
Want to know.
yeah, for
I
the
agree.
startup, I'd love for people to know
I agree.
that our people are there.
I hear
Maybe
you.
even the numbers or the countries in the Caribbean.
course.
Because when you say Caribbean, some of us think
I
maybe it's
know.
just a single country and all this stuff. Yeah.
Every single day
Yeah.
that I go out,
Mm.
when I go out, even my wife, Judy, who's originally from Grenada,
Mm.
we encounter the same question. Where are you from?
Mm.
And we will say, oh, we're from the Caribbean. And they were like, most people will just look at us like, huh?
Mm.
Caribbean? And then we'll say, okay, have you heard of Jamaica? Oh, yes, Jamaica, Bob Marley. And then we say, yeah, but Jamaica is only one country in the Caribbean.
Mm.
And then they look at me like, huh? How do you mean?
Yeah.
And then we have to explain. And we're happy to explain because it's necessary that our brothers and sisters on the continent know that we exist. So
Yeah.
the Caribbean has 22 countries.
22 countries.
22 countries. These are separate countries, and there's some colonies in between. I think it's 27 in all, including the colonies.
Wow.
Okay, so
Mhm.
you have Jamaica, of course.
Mm.
Then you have Barbados.
Mm.
You have Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm.
You have Grenada. You have St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You have St.
Wow.
Kitts and Nevis. You have Antigua and Barbuda. These are twin island nations, right?
Mm.
You have Dominica. You have the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Wow.
You have heard of the Dominican Republic.
Exactly.
But that's in the Caribbean. It's not in South America or Central America. That's
Mm.
in the middle of the Caribbean.
Mm.
We have Puerto Rico, right
Yeah.
next to the Dominican Republic. That's in the
Wow.
Caribbean.
Mm.
You have Cuba. Everybody knows Cuba. or
Yeah.
Cuba.
Uh.
That's in the Caribbean, North Caribbean,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
In fact, Cuba, Dominican Republic,
Mm.
Jamaica,
Mm.
and Puerto Rico, they're all in the cluster in the center, almost to the northern part of, but mostly in the center of the Caribbean.
Mm.
You have Montserrat, you have Anguilla,
Wow.
you have the British Virgin Islands,
Mm,
you have the US Virgin Islands, right?
Mm.
Totally unrelated. The only thing they share in common is the word Virgin Islands. One is owned by the British
Another-
colonies, and then the U.S. colonies. Two countries that talk about democracy and what have you. You have St. Lucia,
Wow.
all right? In all, you have 40 plus million people. Of those 40 million, 27 million of those people are Bantu people.
27 million.
27 million Bantu.
Wow.
And of course, because of slavery and intermarriage, you have people who have mixed heritage. I include that in the mix of Bantu, because in America, African Americans, many are mixed to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, for example, the Dominican Republic, most Dominicans don't like to acknowledge their African ancestry, especially the lighter skinned ones, right? They deny their African ancestry, but they are 76% mixed. 76% of the Dominicans are mixed. Puerto Ricans are the same. Cuba is the same.
Yeah.
And you have Guadeloupe, I forgot, Martinique. You know, you have Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, St. Eustatius. I know I'm missing some, and if there are Caribbean people listening over there, say, man, you forgot my country.
That was low in the comment section.
Yeah, man. My wife is from Grenada, for example, which is right next to Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, in the southern part of the Caribbean. She's from a place called the Spice Isle. That's what the nickname for Grenada is, because of the spices.
Yeah.
The second largest producer of nutmeg in the world is Grenada. It used to be number one. Now Indonesia is number one. So we have a rich history, which is very much influenced by African culture and language. We've retained a lot of that. Even though we've convinced ourselves, many of us falsely say we're not African. Oh, I'm Antiguan. Oh, I'm Jamaican. I'm St. Lucian. And the way we speak our respective languages, the way we speak English, so many African words. Okay, let's talk food, for example. My wife is from Grenada.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of pilau?
Of course. That's the main food here. Every time during the wedding and Christmas and all the stuff. Yeah.
Guess what? In Grenada, it's called the same thing and it's the same food. How come?
Wow.
How come? Either you stole it from us or we got it from you. Of course we got it from you. You know, you have ugali. Okay? But I noticed something about Swahili speakers in Tanzania, at least.
Yeah.
L is pronounced as R sometimes, and R is pronounced as L.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have that issue.
So I noticed when you were saying Niger, something you were saying Niger.
Yeah.
And I believe somebody was going to say, listen, it's Niger, not Niger.
Absolutely.
But then you make you pronounce the R as L.
Yeah.
Well, ugali is another way of saying that. If you go to places like Antigua, it's gari.
Oh, gari.
Right? Gari, right? Now we have cassava, gari, and then you have over here, you have ugali.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, you know, because when you go back to the root of the Bantu languages, you see where the connection comes from.
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit about the Caribbean.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And to be honest, even for me, I did not know other countries.
Most people don't.
And yeah, to be honest, you know, thinking about Caribbean, I thought maybe it's a country somewhere there, but it's a lot of different small islands.
I forgot Bahamas. Road,
oh yeah.
How can I do that?
Someone also commented here, St. Lucia.
Bermuda. I said St. Lucia earlier.
Yeah.
But Bermuda, Cayman Islands. I keep forgetting. Oh, this thing is going down.
This thing is
going down. Yeah.
Maybe I should.
Okay, man.
That should be fine.
Yeah. So Cayman Islands, Bermuda, right? Bahamas, of course. Bahamas is not one island. Bahamas is 700 islands.
700?
700 islands. The Virgin Islands is 37 islands. Grenada is 4 or 5 islands.
700 islands?
700 islands. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there are any Bahamians in the house. Yeah.
Wow.
But so the Caribbean is an archipelago, which is a bunch of islands that spring from 90 miles away from Miami all the way down, running parallel with Central America, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
all the way down to Venezuela,
Mm.
close to Venezuela.
Mm. Mm.
And that's the Caribbean. And we are, for the most part,
Mm.
descendants of
Mm.
African slaves from
Mm.
West Africa and Central West Africa.
Mm.
A few people from, a small percentage from Mozambique, but mostly from Angola, Congo,
Mm.
Cameroon,
Mm.
go all the way across to Senegal.
Yeah.
In my case, my people are from Ghana,
Ghana.
the Ga tribe
Yeah.
in Accra. And I was able to find out proof of this. It was oral tradition
Mm.
that we're from West Africa. We all know most of us are from West Africa in the
Mm.
West,
Mm.
but there was an oral tradition that we were from Ghana.
Mm.
But I was able to go and check the records with the Danish.
Yeah.
Kept better records than the British or the US. They're
Mm.
very particular about records.
Yeah.
And I was able to confirm that my father's mother, my grandmother's surname,
Mm.
Sewer, Sewer, was actually Sowa, Sowah. I was able to find, my cousin and I,
Mm.
the manifest, ship manifest that showed our direct ancestor whose surname was Sowa. His name was Ni
Wow.
Sowa Abobilo.
Abobilo must be Nigerian.
No, it's actually God from Ghana.
All right.
And then my father's father,
Yeah.
who was very fair skinned or light skinned rather.
Mm.
I don't like to use the word fair skin.
Mm.
That's another subject for another day.
Mm.
He was light skinned.
Mm.
He is mixed British,
Yeah.
but African, strong African ancestry. And come to find out, his grandmother, my grandfather's grandmother, was half Ghanaian. Her name was Camille Akai. Akai is AKAI.
Oh yeah.
So for some reason, my father, strong Ghanaian connection. And when I went to Ghana in the 90s, went to Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, spent most of the time in Liberia and Ghana. I was able to see the family before I even knew they were my family.
Yeah.
I met people with that surname. The godfather of my oldest daughter is a Ghanaian, and he was the one who influenced me and encouraged me to visit Ghana in the first place, only to find out that we're from the same tribe after the fact.
Wow.
So that's true for people in the Caribbean. Jamaica has a strong Ghanaian and Nigerian history. But then you have Central America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have South America. A lot of Africans, not just Brazil. Guatemala, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, all those places full of Africans who speak either English or Spanish, and they retain a lot of the food and the culture.
Thinking about that, I think the population of Africans in the world, it must be a lot.
It's 1.6 billion actually. It's 1.6 billion. Brazil is 96 million. Some people say as much as 105 million, but I like to be conservative. 96 million Brazilians of African ancestry. I'm not saying they're 100% African. That's impossible. There are those who are, but they're African descendants. You can look at them and know that they're African.
Yes.
96 million in one country in South America. One.
And you have 27 in the Caribbean.
27 in the Caribbean. You have 43 to 45 in the United States. Some people say that's underestimated, right?
Yeah.
They willfully do that, right? So if we do the numbers, right? If you start, we're not counting Panama, Costa Rica. We just said Brazil. We didn't say anything about Venezuela. Venezuela. They have a lot. Ecuador. And so when you add everything up, they're saying between the Americas and Europe, you're talking anywhere between 213 million to 270 million diaspora.
No wonder why they're scared of us. No wonder why they always try to pull us
You
down.
see it now.
Because if the day it's gonna come that
When
African
the day-
descendants,
when the day
when the
comes.
day
Uh-huh.
decide to move back to
And it's now.
Africa,
The day is now.
the day is now.
Uh-huh.
You're here.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
So this
Uh,
96 million, Brazil. We
Mm.
always talk about the US, or sometimes we talk about the Caribbean, but we hardly ever talk about the Latin America. Okay, we talk about Europe,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The smallest number of diasporans. This is
Mm.
not to throw shade on
Mm.
the African diaspora in Europe. I'm
Yeah.
just saying the smallest percentage of people
Mm.
in the African diaspora
Mm.
by region is
Yeah.
actually Europe. But we're not discounting it because it's still number. I think you're still talking
Yeah.
perhaps a couple million. Well, and I am not
Mhm.
so sure.
Yeah.
But as a people, let's talk about oneness.
Yeah.
1.6 billion people is nothing
Mm.
to joke about and laugh about.
Mm.
So we are there,
Mm.
and more and more of us are coming here,
Mm.
and it's I'd rather you ask because I may go off on a tangent and keep you all
Yeah.
night talking
Yeah.
because you just tell me where you want me to go and let me answer.
Not at all. Like this is very
Yeah.
spontaneous talk
Okay.
because we just guys. By the way, we just
Yeah.
met today.
Yeah.
I think last night, I went through my emails and I found your email
Yes.
and I reached out to you to
Yes.
talk and we had a conversation and we insisted that we should meet up
Mm-hmm.
and I told that we could meet today.
Yes.
So we met today. We had a moment somewhere there in the cafe, and then I invited, my brother here to the office to come and to chill, to just have more conversation about everything. And we decided to do this podcast, to talk about this stuff
It's
because,
a new story of my life.
yeah,
Mark Meets Africa is the same thing. I never wanted to be in the camera.
yeah,
I prefer to be behind a microphone,
Exactly.
coming from a background of
Yeah.
radio.
yeah.
But it's necessary. We have to get outside of our
It
comfort
is.
zone.
It is.
Yeah.
So talking
Yeah.
about Caribbean and our
Yes.
people, African descent, because I
Yes.
know a lot of you guys are watching this. You can let us know also in the comment section. But I want us to move to
Sure.
our people moving back home, right?
That's it.
I've heard a lot. Actually,
Mhm.
I've heard from my friends from the US,
Yes.
African descendants. They say these days things have been getting a little bit harder for them to come back home. Like
Yes.
there's some sort of restrictions have been imposed to them to actually move
Yes.
back. But not only that, even here in the continent, in some of the countries, also the governments, they're kind of like strengthening a little bit, like not really allowing, it's not really easy for you to come here and like everything to just move smoothly. It's not. And it has everything to do with the loans and aids that we get. So there's some sort of like agenda in the behind the scene that is going on to stop you guys.
Covert. It's not out in the open. It's not
Yeah.
officially spoken.
Exactly.
But trust me,
Stopping you guys to
Trust
move
me.
back home because when you come
They
here,
know
of
why.
course, black
they know why.
consciousness,
Trust me, they know why.
uh-huh,
They know why.
they know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they know. You see, I will tell you briefly our own experience.
Yeah.
Okay, we came here December 20th, 2020. No, not December 20th.
Mhm.
December 9th, Independence Day, Tanzania.
Whoa,
I never forget
wow.
that day.
Wow.
Yeah, we came on the 9th of December. We arrived on the 9th of December.
Mm.
And, I bought the ticket. I
Yeah.
booked the ticket.
Mm.
And the ticket was canceled. And I didn't know it was canceled until I double checked because knowing what I have been doing for the past 20 years,
Mm.
I know that there may be some issues
Yeah.
in terms of challenges.
Mm.
This thing about radical truth is not something that we just picked up today, you and I,
Yeah.
or 4 years ago, 3 years ago,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
This has been a long, ongoing process.
Mm.
So the ticket was canceled. So we went and tried to book it, and they said, "Sorry, you cannot book it again. All the seats are gone." I said, "No, that's impossible. You have my money."
Yeah.
Those six
Mm.
tickets,
Mm.
I need those tickets.
Mm.
It took me 3 days to conclude the purchase of the tickets. And I was up to the task because
Mm.
I had heard a week before
Yeah.
on a YouTube channel
Mm.
right here in this country,
Mm.
one YouTuber was saying how she was getting complaints
Mm.
from other diasporans who were traveling using a particular airlines. I wouldn't call it airlines, but I'll call it Qatar Airlines. Let me just call it. Yeah, let me just say. At the time, there was a problem. So what would happen was she was getting complaints that people were buying the tickets. They were showing up at the airport only to find out that the flight was canceled, or being told that the flight was canceled, never received an email, never received a notice. When they get to the airport and they're told that the flight was canceled, they're seeing people in the line going in and checking in. And what they discovered, some people discovered, was that other people were boarding a flight that was supposed to be canceled, that they were told was canceled. Read between the lines. This is YouTube. Yes. I don't want to read between the lines.
I feel you. Yeah.
So people that didn't look like them were boarding a plane for a flight that was either supposed to be canceled or a flight that was rescheduled, but she didn't get a notice of the cancellation and she didn't get a notice for the rescheduling.
Yeah.
And what was noticed was that it was a particular profile of people this was happening to. It was our people.
Yeah.
This was in 2020.
2020.
Okay, so if people are talking about restrictions now, it didn't start now.
Yeah.
It took us so much. We got to New York. New York was in the process at the time, and New Jersey, of requiring that you take a PCR test in order to even transit to the state to your final destination. It wasn't when you arrive, you are required to take a test. They're saying, no, even if you're transiting, you must take this test. And at that time, we knew what that was about.
Yeah.
And we were not taking anybody's test. And so we got there in time to avoid that rule going into effect. The US military was in the airport to speak to that issue that they're talking about is happening now, and to show you that it was happening then. US military was at the airport. Just so you know, US military is never at the airports in America. Just like that. They were there, they were encouraging people to take a certain injection. They were pulling you off to the side and questioning you. But it wasn't everyone they were questioning. And it looked like we had fit that profile. And where are you going? Why are you going? Would you be interested in taking the test? Have you had your shot? Would you like to take the shot? And so these guys, they're armed, they're very imposing. So yes, when we have challenges, and we live in a place with a lot of challenges, opportunities and challenges, the American dream is not a good dream for many people. Even for people who succeed, you ask Bill Cosby, you ask people who have made it, if they walk down the wrong street, as famous as they are, as rich as they are, as educated as they are, if somebody mistakes you for a robber for no other reason than the color of your skin, you can die for nothing. Don't matter who you are. Okay. And so there's restrictions that people are talking about is part of a way of life that we experience. Now, when people get angry with you, when you get frustrated and you say, oh, this is not right, or there's injustice here, or why do you people behave this way towards us? They will tell you, go back to Africa to insult you. Or if you don't like it here, go back to Africa to insult.
And when you try to come back, it's a restriction.
My point is just that. My point is, now many of us have come to the realization that there's no place like home. Those of us who have escaped the educational programming, the way we've been socialized to view Africa, those of us who have now taken the DNA tests and done our research, those of us who have gone far back in the history books, and we're not starting with slavery, we're starting before slavery, we've come to realize that, really and truly, this is home that these people are insulting us about. Let us go home. Now that we're coming home, they're saying, why do you want to go? You shouldn't go. And so there is a big backstory to this whole issue of why it is now becoming difficult to relocate to the continent. It's not as simple as buying a ticket.
Yeah.
It is if you have the right mindset.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the right mindset, it's a bigger challenge.
Why do you think it's becoming difficult? And I think it's going to become even more difficult in the coming days.
Because the propaganda, the apparatus of propaganda that exists, if you can hear what I'm saying without me saying it, I can say it much more clearer, but you're intelligent and you have an intelligent audience. The propaganda machine that is the media, the mass media, which is controlled. And I'll stop right there. The educational system, all right, all of it communicates the idea that you want to stay in the land of the free. You want to stay in the Americas because this is where the opportunities are. You don't want to travel. You shouldn't travel to that place. That place is the place. People are hungry. There's too much instability. They're not civilized. They're not developed. You don't want to go there. That's the image that's portrayed. That's the paint, the canvas with a painting that speaks of lack of development, instability, and lack of safety. But that is not working. Okay. And because it's not working anymore, that's where this covert, I would say, initiative to discourage us from going. The latest discouragement now is what's happening in West Africa. That's the latest discouragement. This whole idea that we need to be in America if we want to be free. We have broken free from that lie. I can tell you from the 90s when I visited West Africa, okay, the African continent, but actually West Africa, the freest I ever felt and have ever felt was when I touched down and I went through those doors at Kotoka International Airport in Ghana. More free than the Virgin Islands, more free than the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is free, okay? I felt freedom that I have never felt. And of course, by the time I came to Tanzania, it's okay. I'm home. Even though I know my people are from West Africa. Okay? So the lie is out. The lie is losing its grip. And so now they have to, but they cannot be so open about it. They can't come and say, please stay because we don't want you to go home. Because if you go home, the truth about the West will be exposed. If you go home, the diaspora and the African continentals coming together will be a force to be reckoned with. If you go home to Africa, that we've been telling you should go home as a matter of reproach, but now we really don't want you to go. If you do that, then the resources and the know-how of the Africans on the continent and our awareness, we as diasporans, of how they think and how they truly behave and how they really, what they really think of Africans. You see, you guys, you see people coming and they're smiling and they're heavy-handed with they giving you money and tips, they give you grants, they give you everything, they give you IMF, you know what I'm saying? Well, but they do all these things, and you think that
They
that's
love you.
what, no, they
They
don't.
care for you.
And I'm not preaching hate, I'm a minister, I'm an ordained minister, doesn't mean anything now, because now that I know who I am for the past, 8 years, I know who I am. The ordination doesn't mean anything, but for those people who, you know, the ordination means something to, I'm an ordained minister, okay? And I can tell you, this is not about hatred. It's only about knowing who you are, loving who you are, and loving your homeland. That's what it's about. And anywhere else in the world, that's celebrated. Why can't it be celebrated and acknowledged for what it is when it's us? But I'm asking a question that I know the answer to.
Yeah.
The day that we discover who we are, discover where we belong, and we go there, is the day that we will begin to unify. And the day we begin to unify is the day that we will find our destiny and our purpose. And it's the day that they will begin to leave. They will not leave as long as we stay where they are. They will leave Africa when we return home.
Yeah.
You will not progress in Africa until all of your brothers and sisters
They're here.
are here.
Yeah.
The ones who don't come, they don't belong, because in their own minds, they have decided that they shall remain in somebody else's land. And so I can be a proud Caribbean person. I am, only because I'm an African.
I love that. I love that. Because you're proud an African, you're proud
That's
Caribbean.
why.
Wow.
No other reason.
That's beautiful. I love this conversation. Let me ask you this.
Tell me.
You said something very, very important, and I think a lot of us, we are struggling with our identity.
Yes.
I said this before, that
on the continent and off the continent.
and outside the continent. I said this before, that we kind of have confused identity because of slavery, because of colonialism, because of how much colonialism did to Africa. They did everything to take away the identity by renaming the places, by teaching us their languages. Today, you have Africans who appreciate more of a Western culture than their own culture. You are here in Tanzania, you have experienced a lot, people treating you differently or treating a white man differently, you know, above their own people, simply because of the color and all this stuff. You know, we've spoken about that. So we have this struggle of identity, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are detached from each other. Like we don't realize that we are one people.
We're actually family, literally.
We are family, and we're gonna talk about that. We don't realize that, and I think this is what, you know, the division of Africa is a business to them, and I think that this is one of the things that they're trying to protect as much as we can. For example, for diaspora to move back home, to have that Black consciousness, for us to know who we are, because we all went through. You guys, you went through slavery, we went through colonialism, but all these things. It was intentionally to take away our identity, to confuse us, to divide us, to separate us, so that we can be weak and they can control us and manage us.
Divide and conquer, yes.
Exactly. But let me ask you this. You said you have discovered who you are. Who are you? I'd like to know that.
Okay, so we have to keep it 100.
Yeah.
So I do have European ancestry.
Yes.
That's where Whitehead comes from, British name. In my case, it's not a name that I inherited from a slave owner, because one of my ancestors, the original Whitehead, was a European.
You know, to be honest with you, when I saw the name Whitehead, I was like, is this the nickname? Is this have a meaning behind? Whitehead. But today I saw you, you really have Whitehead.
That's I grew up in the Caribbean. That was a joke. The joke was, your name is Whitehead.
Your head is white.
That name suits you. But my hair is blonde because of albinism. You see, this is the thing now. See, that's what we have to know. I have to explain this. I have to do it over another channel, and I have to always explain it until people get to know who I am. And not because sometimes our people on the continent and off the continent, not so much the Caribbean, but in the States, we get hung up on skin color without knowing why. So I have European ancestry, but my skin is not white because of my European ancestry. My skin is white because of albinism, right? A form of albinism that is not as like what you see, but it is. My wife always telling me that. She said, you don't have the full thing, you know. You don't have the full thing. Stop seeing you. I said, I don't care. People need to just get over it, right? Already. But I'm just saying, my African American mother, I inherited its X-linked, form of it. I inherited from her. That's the irony in the whole thing. My African American mother, my Black mother, she is the one I inherited from. My father, who has way back, European, but he has strong Ghanaian ancestry. So ethnically, I discovered, like I said earlier, that I'm from a tribe called at least one on my father's side. Ga. I don't know what my mother, she passed away, and she never did the DNA test. We don't know for sure, but she's African. So if who I am,
Yes.
identity wise, first of all, I am an African born in the Americas, raised in the Caribbean. That's the way I can describe myself. I have to describe myself first. I'm an African. A lot of African diaspora struggle with that, whether they're from the Caribbean, whether they're from the US. I'm not saying all, a lot of us struggle with that, whether from Latin America. I mentioned the Dominican Republic, even Puerto Rico. You know, they struggle with that. I'll give you a quick story, if I may.
Absolutely.
So in Puerto Rico, which is in the Caribbean, they speak Spanish, they speak English. It's another colony of the United States. I'm driving that point home because the high and mighty United States that talk about sovereignty of people and the right for people to be independent and democracy and whatnot, they have colonies. Puerto Rico is one of them, along with the Virgin Islands. So in Puerto Rico, about 70% of the people, 76% of the people, just like Cuba, are actually mixed with African. Spanish people mix with African. I mean, what do you call it? Emancipation took place much sooner in Puerto Rico and Latin America than it did the Caribbean and it did the United States, right? All right. So this lady got married to a Texan, a white Texan guy. She's a Puerto Rican. It's a story my mother told me many years ago. She had blonde hair, she had green eyes, and she had white skin. And she married this Texan, or this Texan married her. And she got pregnant soon after being married. And she gave birth to a brown skinned child. And this Texan, he's a guy from Texas, in the South. He got angry. You cheated on me. This is not my child. She started to cry. She said, I never cheated on you. This is your child. How can you give birth to a... Right? And she just cried. She wouldn't explain. She kept saying, this is your child. This is your child. I promise you, I've never been with anybody else. This is your child. So he complained to her mother. Her mother, being naive, as so many Caribbean people are, especially in that time, 50 years, 60, 70 years ago, she says, oh, that's an easy one to solve. That's your child. I'm sure that's your child. I can explain. She not understanding the problem the man was having. She said, let me show you why the child looks like that. They went to the countryside in Puerto Rico. And as they're approaching this old house, there's this woman sitting down with a pipe, She's puffing away on her tobacco pipe. Pitch black, black as the ace of spades. She said, this is the reason why the child came out that color. This is my mother, her grandmother.
Wow.
You see?
Wow.
So if he was paying attention, because my mother said, this is just on the light side. This woman who was light skinned, almost white or white, her hair was straight only because she was perming it and he didn't know it was permed hair. If he was paying attention, he would have known that she's black because she had all the curves. But he wasn't paying attention. The curves come from Africa, not from Europe. That's just in the light side. So there is an awakening that's taking place. We've been taught to think of ourselves as, I am an Antiguan, I'm a Jamaican, I'm a Dominican, I am a Venezuelan, I'm a Dominican. We've been socialized to think in terms of nationality, right? And that's been the problem of the Caribbean. It was when Marcus Garvey came that he began to dismantle that mindset. And we saw what happened to him. Right? And so my mother, now, who am I? So my father and my mother, my actual birth parents, who I've been referring to all this while, my actual blood parents, I've been referring to. But I have another set of parents. And it's important I mention them for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
So from the age of 6.5, my brother and I was 6.5, he was 4.5. We were raised by another family from the Virgin Islands. Yes, I knew my father, and I interacted with my actual birth father, worked with him in the summers. He was a professional chef, a pastry chef.
Yeah.
I would spend time with him, but most of my time was spent with our other, parents, who he allowed to raise his sons, because he traveled a lot and he worked a lot in different countries. And my parents, they were from an older generation. I want to show you who I am and why I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
I'm 60, I'll be 61 in November, but I was raised by my parents, my adopted parents, not legally adopted, but adopted in everything but legally. My mother was born in 1921.
Yeah.
My actual father was born in the 1940s. But my mother, who raised me, and my father, they were born in the 1920s, before World War II and just after World War I. She was from Antigua, but she was born, her father was from Antigua, but she was born in the Dominican Republic. I'm sorry. Her mother was from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, the Danish West Indies. That generation was very Afrocentric, only they did not know. They were closer to slavery, because my grandmother was born in 1895, right? And her father was born a slave. Okay? And so my adopted mother was an herbalist, not a witch doctor.
Yeah.
She used herbs that was handed down from generation to generation from Africa to heal people without the witchcraft. Right? She was what we call a griot. A griot is someone who is a culture bearer. A culture bearer is someone who knows the different cultural stories and culture, the food and the medicine and everything. So I grew up listening to what we call Anansi stories. You may not know about those in East Africa. Or do you have them?
Yeah, no.
You have Anansi?
I don't know. There might be, but I don't know.
Anansi stories are proverbs and stories that are rooted in African culture, that's handed down from generation to generation.
Oh, we have this.
To teach moral lessons.
We have that.
So Anansi is the spider. He's a trickster.
My dad used to teach us. Yeah.
Yes.
My dad used
so I grew up listening to those. That generation knew
Wow.
those things. So at a young age, my brother and I, we were exposed to African culture. Only we thought it was Caribbean culture.
Oh.
Because our parents, they thought it was just Caribbean culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was when I went to Africa, I realized, this is African culture. So I am the way I am because of that.
So basically you had to unlearn that.
I had to unlearn.
In a way that you know the stories, but you just didn't know
realize
that
it was
this is
African.
where it
came from.
Yeah.
All the food we eat, we have fungi. You call, I don't know what you call, cornmeal that's cooked.
Yeah.
And it's like ugali, but it's cornmeal, yellow corn.
Yeah.
It's same ugali, It's just yellow corn.
It's ugali,
we call it fungi. In Ghana, they call it fufu.
Yeah, it's the same. It's ugali because they use cassava, they use corn, they use wheat flour, some other places.
Yes. Breadfruit, rice flour, any flour.
Absolutely, rice. Yes.
Same. So we are now rediscovering. Many of us are rediscovering. The young people today are rediscovering, because of the internet, rediscovering their African identity. We always knew with our head that we are Africans because only people from Africa look the way we look with our features. But now we're beginning to understand that we're not only from Africa, but we are actually Africans.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Identifying with a place
Oh,
and
yeah.
identifying with the people of the place.
I think that's one of the struggle that I think a lot of African descendants are struggling with.
Right.
To define themselves as Africans,
As people.
or as they're from Africa.
Right.
Because we see that
Right.
a lot. Like, oh,
Right.
I'm from Africa, my ancestors are from there, but
Exactly.
I am.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll have a someone who is a descendant from someone who's from somebody who's from Amsterdam or Holland,
Yeah.
or someone who's from Britain who's Caucasian,
Yeah.
right? Who will tell you, I'm an African, I'm a South African, because they were born and raised in South Africa, and their parents were born and raised in South Africa, and their grandparents and their great-grandparents, their great-great-grandparents, all the way back to Zulu Shaka time. But they're Europeans. And they get to choose based on the context who they're talking to claim what identity they want to claim. They are actually Europeans and they know it. And they claim that when they're dealing with Europeans. But when they're dealing with Africans on the continent, they say, I'm South African.
Yeah.
Right? But yet they're not African because they don't eat the foods that the Africans eat. They don't sing the music.
Yeah.
They don't respect or regard us.
They don't even
human.
live.
They don't
where
even live.
Africans
Thank
live.
you. I was
Yeah.
trying to even avoid going there, but that's it. So you want to claim Africanness, like Elon Musk, for example, just because you were born in a place, you identify with a place, but you never can identify with the people. How can you?
You can. Yeah.
And so we need to get to the place in our consciousness as diasporans where we say, you know what? I am an African.
Yeah.
Not because of the place, but because of
So yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
And so I'm an African living in the Caribbean. I'm an African in America. I'm an African. The Chinese, I use this example all the time. The Indians, with all due respect for them, I'm just being,
It's radical truth.
Yeah. So you go to Singapore, Singapore is not China. Singapore is dominated by Chinese, but it's not China. When you ask someone in Singapore what they are, whether they are native, indigenous Singaporean or Chinese, if they're Chinese, they will say, I'm Singaporean nationality, but people will say, but I'm Chinese. Their family might have been in Singapore for 100 years, 150 years, 200 years. I'm Chinese. Nobody questions that. Nobody says, no, you're not Chinese, you're Singaporean. Or the Chinese in China doesn't say, oh, you are not Chinese, you're Singaporean. They identify them as Chinese. They look at them and they say, they see the name, they see the features, they see and they say, yes, you're Chinese, but you're Singaporean Chinese, but you're Chinese. All right?
Yeah.
Indians in the Grenada, in the Caribbean, doesn't matter if they've been there 100 years, 200 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter how many generations, everybody, Indian. I'm St. Lucian, but Indian St. Lucian. Oh, I'm whatever, you just name it.
Yeah.
So why is it that we struggle and other people outside of our ethnicity struggle with us identifying ourselves as who we actually are? And then the place where we are from. There is a reason for that. And for me, I know the answer, but we need to grapple with the reason. We need to ask ourselves why. Why is it a problem for us? Why is it a problem for Africans on the continent to acknowledge that we look like you? There's a history proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we were originated from Africa. We were taken, our ancestors were taken against our will, their will. Why is it so hard to acknowledge that we are Africans?
Yeah.
No, we didn't grow up in Africa to learn the culture firsthand, but we are Africans, just like the Chinese, who is separated from China, is Chinese, and the Indians are Indian, and the Arabs in the Virgin Islands, and the Arabs all over the Caribbean are Arabs. Why are we struggling? We are struggling because we are socialized to struggle with that issue. We are socialized to see ourselves differently from who we really are. And as a result, if you don't know who you are, how can you ever know your destiny and your purpose?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good one.
If you don't know who you are, how can you even answer any other question about anything concerning yourself if you don't know who you are?
Give me the iPad.
And so one of the struggles that our people have, we as diasporans have,
Yeah.
is that when we come home, it's not easy. It's not easy to tell your family that you're going to Africa.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can appreciate, Paul, I don't know if you can appreciate, Mike, I don't know if you can appreciate how, just imagine, as an African-born, African continent-born African, okay? Someone coming to the realization that, you know what, this is not my home, it's never been my home.
Yeah.
It's all I know, but it's not my home. And I want to go home. But to do so, you have to tell the vast majority of your family that you're moving away from them 7,000, sometimes 10,000, sometimes 14,000 miles away to the continent. To tell them that I'm not going to be able to just fly back anytime I want to because it's very expensive to travel to Africa by design.
Wow.
To leave cousins behind, to leave brothers. I left a sister behind, 2 brothers behind. I left a whole washload of cousins. The family is huge. I have cousins all over the Caribbean, all over the United States. But the ones closest to leave them behind. Many times our families see it as a form of rejection to go back to Africa.
Oh God.
Right? Can you imagine that?
God, please.
And then for all the research, we read books, we read articles, we look at videos for months, for years, 2-3 years, doing the best we can. We make friendships to try to learn as much as we can. Nothing can prepare you really for Africa once you read. Right? You're starting all over again. And then to be told you're Mzungu. To be told that you're an American because of my passport. Who created the passport system and why? You see, this is the side of the narrative that we don't articulate well enough to explain to our brothers and sisters. And you need to understand. But then we come, at the same time, we come with all kinds of false and erroneous ideas about our African brothers and sisters on the continent. We come with funny notions and beliefs that comes from that propaganda machine called education, called the media. So we come with our baggage, right? And then because of colonization, you interact with us because of your baggage. And because we don't understand each other, we don't understand that we are paying a price. You don't understand we are paying a price to leave. It doesn't matter how much money we have. You can have a lot of money. I can tell you that people who have come with money and they have invested and they lost the money because why? Because people saw them as an ATM. People saw them as a bank. People saw them as a get-rich-quick opportunity. They didn't see them as brothers and sisters who worked hard for that money, who endured all kinds of discrimination for that money. Or you're just seen as a meal ticket. That's all. You're not my brother. You're an American. I don't care that you're black like me. But then we came and we are coming. So many of us are coming thinking, oh, we are better than. Don't you know we come from the West, you know, we know more than you, you know. And I'm saying that we have all been dealt a raw, bad card with colonization and slavery. And until we start asking questions, before we start providing answers, until we start thinking about the other person first, their perspective, and not our own, we will never break down these walls that have been set up for us to hide behind. The people, my friend, Brother Mike, the people who are coming, let's at least acknowledge that they decided to leave their family. Now, unfortunately, there are those who come and because they don't have their, what I call resilience, relocation resilience, they know they have this passport that allows them to go back. They don't give the continent a chance. They don't give their brothers and sisters a chance. They always have this plan C or backup plan. But I'm saying that the time has to come for us as African diasporans, and the time has come for us as Africans on the continent to sanction ourselves. Remember that phrase I used earlier?
I love that. Yeah.
To sanction
I
ourselves.
love that.
We need to get to the point where we realize that, you know what? We only have each other.
Oh,
Good, bad, indifferent,
Mm,
issues.
mm,
We have each other
mm,
and our motherland.
mm.
I think our passport that allows us to go back when things get tough, as opposed to go to another African country, or as opposed to think about how I can adjust my thinking. How
Yeah.
can I be resilient? How can I assimilate? How can I not be so focused on being around my own, who we call our own, which is diaspora, when our own is all of us?
Mm.
And let's see how we can get outside of our comfort zone,
Mm.
but with wisdom,
Yeah.
and start to assimilate.
Yeah.
We don't even want to learn the language, most of us. Me, I want to learn, but my head is 61 years old,
Mm.
right? A simple greeting in Swahili
Mm.
goes a long way. A simple greeting in Tree, if you in Ghana, uh, in Zulu, in Shona, if you're in Zimbabwe, or it goes a long way to break down the walls. And I think that's the problem. The problem we have is, and we don't want to admit it. Africans on the continent don't want to admit it. Diasporans don't want to admit it. All of us got a raw deal, and because of it, we don't know each other. We don't even know ourselves. And we need to rediscover ourselves. Africans on the continent need to rediscover Africans. Who they are, who we are. We Africans from outside, who born outside, we need to rediscover who we are. And I think we can only do that if we learn from each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No. Well, I have so many things, but I didn't want to interrupt you,
Yes,
because
I appreciate that.
what you are sharing, it's very important, and I think it's a fundamental, and it's a foundation of the unity we want. I'm gonna start with rediscovering ourselves,
Yes.
and knowing who we are. And you said something very interesting. You say that you cannot answer any other question if you don't answer that question.
No.
If you do not know who you are, then everything else that is up there, it's wrong. Maybe
Right.
you're doing for someone else. Maybe you're doing because maybe you are carrying someone else's identity, or something that you're taught. But if you do not know who you are, everything changes. So there are like 5 important questions of
Okay.
life.
Okay.
5 fundamental questions. The
Okay.
first one is that, who am I?
Mhm.
Identity, your identity. And the second one is, where am I from? The source, my originality. Where am I from? The third question is, why am I here?
Exactly.
The purpose.
Uh-huh.
It's talking about purpose. Your
Exactly.
purpose. Why are you there? The fourth question, what can I do? Potential. Your potential. And the last one is, where am I going? The destiny. So when you're talking about who am I, it reminded me about these 5 fundamental questions
Exactly.
of life. And it reminded me that if I identify myself, just for the sake of this conversation, let's say as African, because we
Yes.
know our continent was never used to be called,
Right.
Africa.
Right.
Yes. If I identify myself as an African, then even when I come to the continent, I'm going to associate myself with the fellow Africans, because I see myself
Simple.
in them.
Simple.
I see that I'm similar. I am them. But if I identify myself as someone else,
Anything else.
I'm going to create a barrier.
Anything else. Not even something.
Anything else. And that's what we see. We're talking about this area that one of the things that I hate the most, and I've spoken about this a lot of time here, it's seeing all these different groups of local Africans, or diaspora, or African descendants, which in a way it keep creating division among ourselves, even inside the continent,
Of course.
which was designed long time ago for us to be apart from each other. It's just like the time that our ancestors were taken away to go to those countries. The
Exactly.
same thing is happening today, that they come here, but we're still divided. They're taken away from
what's
us.
the use?
Exactly. What's the use? Because we have forgotten who we are. And even the local Africans, if we know who we are, and we know that they are also Africans, we're going to change our mindset. Start looking at them as an ATM machine, that I need to get this, I need to get support, I need to get that. The same mentality that we have in our leadership. receiving loans, receiving aids, that we cannot do anything by
don't wanna get me
ourselves.
started.
We
Don't wanna
need
get me
your
started.
support. We need this and that. And that's why a lot of us, we like, leaders like leaders like, Dr. Magufuli, like Sankara, like Nkuruma, even PLO Lumumba these
There you
days,
go.
people who they believe in the ability and the potential of Africanness, because they knew like who they are, they knew what they can do, the potential in their identity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to add is when you're talking about moving away from far away, I got very emotional because I was
Just think
reminded.
about it. Yes.
I was reminded of the story in the Bible of Abraham.
Yes.
When God, he told Abraham that, you need to go to a place that he didn't even know where he was going. That's not, he didn't even know where he was going, but it took faith, uncompromised faith, for him to leave everything that he had, his family and everything. And most of the time we don't think how difficult that was. That was not an easy decision to just stand up and start leaving, go to somewhere else that he didn't know. But he left everything that he had in that place to go to a place that he didn't know. It reminded me that, and it reminded me of African descendants these days who are moving back home, that they're leaving everything they have. They're leaving family, they're leaving land, they're leaving jobs. We're having those stories. They're leaving everything they have to go to a new place that they've never been before. They heard a lot of negative things about it. They know that our ancestors are coming from them, but they've never been there. But moving, starting a new life in another place. So I think one thing that we can both learn, African descendants and local Africans. For African descendants, we can learn that this new place that you're going, it has its own challenge. It's not a land full of milk and honey. For example, Canaan, Israelite, they thought when they go to Canaan, it's just gonna be milk and honey and all those stuff. And the report they gave, Joshua, the report he gave, it was a little bit different from other people. They gave a different report. They're like, oh, we saw these giants people and we are scared. We don't know if we're going to survive. So we have to know that this new land that we are going, which is Africa, the promised land, we have to know that it is a place with challenges. It's not a food that it's already cooked. No, but it's a land that needs to be cultivated.
Exactly.
And it's gonna take the local Africans, and also it's gonna take African descendant diaspora, both of us, to come together as one to cultivate this land. Because it requires for all of us to come to our home, that this is ours, the entire family is here. Now let's cultivate this land. But if I come with mentality that I'm gonna go to that place, it's gonna welcome me. Oh, everything is gonna be heaven on earth. You're not gonna find it here, because you have a part to play into this land, into this place. And for local Africans here, also we have to know that our brothers and sisters, these are our brothers and sisters who they're moving back home. They've never been here. Some of them, they've never visited here. They were not born here. They were taken a long time ago. They have no even idea what Africa is. They have seen on TV or on movies, and we all know things that they show on movies and television. It has nothing to do with, it's not the Africa we know. Exactly. So we need to be tolerant towards one another, and we need to understand one another. We need to give each other a chance. As a diaspora, I need to give the chance to the continent. As local Africans, we need to give each other a chance. We need to understand that it's not an easy decision to move back to the new land. Some people, they will choose to remain where they are today, to live their comfortable life in a way.
Or even uncomfortable life.
Even uncomfortable life.
Because the devil they say, they have a saying back home.
Exactly.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
You don't know.
That's what.
And to be honest, we have witnessed, I was telling you this area, a lot of African descendants who just decided to give up and to leave out of Africa. Because it's not the place that they thought it would be, that, I would rather go. And I'm not taking that like any bad or worse experience that I've taken. That's why we're addressing this. I think it has everything to do with that mindset. Like, where I'm coming from and where I'm going. Like, I said this before, that if you want to come here, then you have to forget everything. You have to know nothing to come from the scratch, to start learning everything from the scratch. And I think we have a job to play, us as SNOA and my brother here. We have a job to play to educate our people. it's gonna take everything we got, because the issue with money and how I look at you, like I look at you and I just know that, oh, this guy, he has
My
money.
problem,
And
my
that's-
problem is worse than the average, because in the Dominican Republic was like that. Here it's the same thing. People can just look at you and they can tell that you're not Tanzanian.
How much you
I
are.
don't know. No, no, I can tell you're not Tanzanian. You can just
Yeah.
look at you, it's not. They just start walk up and start speak English and what have you. But my problem is, in my case, because of my complexion, it's worse because people think I'm a white guy.
Yeah.
And they just definitely he's got. But it's neither here nor there, right? It's neither here nor there. This whole thing about money and no money is not it. I think what we have to realize, that before you can know where you're from and embrace it, before you can know your purpose, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, before you
Your
can
potential.
know your potential,
Destiny.
before you can, you don't get to pick which one of those things you start with first. The
Absolutely.
first one, you have to identify
Yourself. Exactly.
If you don't do that one day, you've lost. That's it, you're done.
Yeah.
Because if you are working with the identity given to you, or you've been socialized to believe about yourself, or based on wrong information, all right, you're going to end up working for someone else's benefit.
Absolutely.
Someone else's
Absolutely.
purpose.
Absolutely.
Someone else's destiny.
Yeah. You cannot work for yourself if you don't know who you are. You can't. You're gonna be swayed away by any wind. And if you don't know who you are, the world is going to define you.
They're going to define you, and who defines you owns you.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that's the next thing. So if I know who I am, if we know who we are, okay. So Africa was already divided before Europe came, and not in a negative way, but it was divided into, I think, 4 or 5 different zones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You had Misra, or Misraim. We call them Egyptians now. Egypt is actually a Greek word. It's not even African.
Yeah.
You know,
Africa is Misri.
Yeah. Misra, the Misraim, those are who we call Egyptians. They were descendants of Ham. Okay. Then you had another descendant of Ham was the place that we call Libya today. It's not even that place alone. It's even bigger than that. All right. The Sahel, the northern part, especially
Sahel.
Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, all those places, and those places that are occupied. I'm sorry to say it that way. I shouldn't have said it that way, but let me just. Those places where the majority of the people are a people who have replaced the original inhabitants. They replaced people who are descendants of Ham. Talking about knowing ourselves now. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You talk about radical truth, right? I can talk radical
Absolutely.
truth.
Please.
I'm free to talk radical truth, right?
Go ahead.
So long as I don't mess up the YT algorithm, right?
Go ahead.
I'll be careful the words I choose, but I can talk radical truth.
Go ahead, sir.
To show you or to speak to the issue of identity and who we are in the diaspora and who you are in what they call sub-Saharan Africa, from Senegal over to Ethiopia and down to South Africa and everything in between. You'll find that you have descendants of Shem. Noah had 3 sons. We're not talking religion, we're talking history now.
Absolutely.
People will say, oh, they've gone into religion. You see, that's what they want you to believe.
Exactly.
That is religion.
So
This
that
is not
we may
religion.
never know who we are.
We are talking history, we are talking
The
ethnicities,
truth. Radical
now.
truth.
Okay? So part of the continent of Africa belongs to Ham, and part of it belongs to Shem, the descendants of Shem. And we know about Foot. We know about Misra. We know about Canaan. They say Canaan in English. It's really Canaan. And we know about Cush. Right? So we have Nilots. Uganda, Tanzania, small percentage of the people, Sudan, and other places among the population. But they're not all Cushites. In fact, you have, I just want to speak to the fact that there are different groups, okay? But in Africa, we have Shemites, and the Shemites include the descendants of Abraham. Even the place that they call Israel, today.
Mm.
Notice my choice of words. The place that they call Israel.
Mm.
All right.
Mm.
That is actually Africa. It's not the Middle East. There's no such thing as Middle East. Middle East was created. It's a geopolitical construct, or
Yeah.
in simple words, it's an area that was created, imagined, and created to serve a political agenda.
Mm.
All right.
Mm.
They don't want Egypt
Mm.
to be considered Africa.
Yes.
And if Egypt is not Africa, how can Northeast Africa, which is what they call Israel, how can that not be Africa? So they have to define Egypt as being the beginning of the Middle East and across. And why would they want to do that?
It doesn't make sense.
Why would they want to? It makes sense when you think about, if you know who we are,
Yeah.
then it makes sense. So the bottom line is that Egypt is Middle East, therefore Saudi Arabia is the Middle East, Israel is the Middle East, whatever that is not Africa. You explain away all the accomplishments of the Egyptians technologically. You explain it away, but it's not Africans that did that. That's the narrative. Because at the end of the day, people in the African continent that look a certain way are not supposed to be capable of advanced technology and engineering. So I'm not going to go too far down this line because that's another subject for another day. But I just want to plant the seed in the mind of the viewer that every black person in Africa are Africans, but not everyone are descendants of Ham. As we've been taught in Bible seminaries, as we've been taught in churches, and in other religions, the black man is the descendant of Ham. No, not all. And once we go down that rabbit hole and we peel back the layers of the onion to discover, okay, if not every African is a descendant of Ham, and some are descendants of Shem, who are they? And what are they? You will discover that the slavers who went to West Africa to enslave our people, and the ones who came to East Africa to enslave our people in East Africa, enslaved the descendants of Shem. And those of you who are listening and watching, you need to find out. We can talk about it another time. When what I'm saying is, when they went to Africa to get some of my ancestors and marched, in the case of my family, 7 clan members, 7 clans of my family, from Sesame, Ghana to the fort, the Danish fort, they knew who they were coming for. When they went to Biafra, Igbo land, when they went to Kikongo, Congo, they went to Angola, what we call Angola, what we call Nigeria. And they went for specific people.
They knew what they came for.
They knew who they came for. When they came to East Africa, they knew who they were enslaving, and they knew why. Now we are fast forwarding to 2023, and something is happening globally. And it's being covered up as best they can, but they cannot cover it for long. A shift is taking place. But we will miss the shift as the diaspora, and we will miss the shift as African continentals if we don't understand and know who we are. And they're doing their best to make sure that this shift doesn't happen. Because when we unify, that's the final nail in the coffin of what is called the West. And if we think we're going to look to the East to get out of this mess, or to see progress and development in Africa,
we're lying to ourselves.
We're lying to ourselves.
We're lying to ourselves. That's what I've been saying for a long time. And we had this conversation before. A couple weeks ago, I came here and I was talking about BRICS. And what I said is this. I say that BRICS is the destruction of Africa's unity.
It is.
With all the goodness agenda or everything that I have.
What are you expecting to say? Bad? They have to say good.
Yeah,
no?
it has to be good. Yeah. For me, it is a distraction to Africa's unity. And I say this, I say what Africa needs, it's not another new relationship. It's not another new savior. It's not Russia. It's not anybody else. What Africa need is, and I thank you for coming here today because you just added another meat to this bone. That what
Sanction.
exactly what the first thing Africa need is to know who we
Who
are.
we are.
Because okay, I love this. So the word ignorance in Hebrew,
Yes.
it's darkness.
Yes.
And the word knowledge in Hebrew is light.
Light.
So because of this ignorance, because of this darkness of not knowing the light, knowledge of knowing who we are, my people are perish. Because of lack of knowledge, my people are perish. We are perishing. Africa, we are perishing. We are struggling. We are fighting against each other. We're discriminating against each other. We're killing each other in Congo, these days in Niger and other parts of Africa because we do not know who we are. If we have that knowledge of understanding who we are, we'll realize that we are one people, we are one man, and we realize that we are more powerful than what we have been experiencing. The reason why we have been like handed, we've been controlled, we've been slaved, we've been colonized, it's because we are very powerful and they know it. They know it and they don't want it to happen. They don't want us to know each other. They don't want us to unite. They don't want that to happen. So basically, unity is going to be very simple if we know who we are.
It's the foundation.
And I want
to can build on.
Exactly. And I wanna add to that. For you, you can give us your perspective in all these organizations. I just mentioned BRICS here, and the summit is coming. I want you to build up into that point. You know, I've said that it's a distraction to Africa's unity because now a lot of countries, they're sending their requests to join, of course, BRICS. But we are not focusing on ourselves. We're not focusing on Africa's unity today. Just a crude example. What is happening in Niger? You see ECOWAS, what is doing in Niger, giving them sanction in their own country, their own people. And at the same time, you have African countries who are requested to join BRICS. And in the BRICS, of course, there's a BRIC currency, but we're not focusing on our own currency, African currency. We're not focusing on bringing ourselves together, but rather sanctioning each other and finding another relationship from other people outside, like Russia and BRICS, so that we are even like, in fact, we are getting even farther from one another. We put our trust right now, a lot of Africans, we put our trust in Russia, and we put our trust in China, without knowing that it's the same thing.
And that's the only, thank you.
And we're not putting focus on ourselves.
It's the same thing. You see, me, I have a little bit of soft spot for Russia, but that doesn't mean that I have to follow Russia.
Yeah.
I don't look to Russia for my help. My help doesn't come from Russia. When I say my help,
absolutely,
my it's a solution to our problem. Doesn't come from any other ethnic group or nation,
but above.
Comes from above. And so it's a distraction.
It is.
Not only is it a distraction, but if you don't know who you are and you don't know who is behind all these international bodies and organizations, then you don't know what is actually happening in the world.
Yeah.
If you don't know what is actually happening in the world and you don't know who is, therefore you don't know who is behind it, how can you understand why these things are happening, why they're doing these things, these initiatives? And if you don't know that what is happening, all of what is happening is actually preventing the unification of our people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then how can you stop what is coming? Something is coming. And so that's why it is so important to understand that identity is a foundation.
Yeah.
You cannot build a house without a firm foundation. Okay? So we are not an international community. I keep hearing them saying the international family, international community.
Mm.
What are y'all talking about?
Mm.
There's no so-called international community
Mm.
when you have people who are saying that because of their interest in somebody else's country, how can you have an interest, a national interest in somebody else's country, and use that as justification to say you're going to keep your troops there?
Mm.
All right?
Mm.
That's somebody who knows their identity, but they're dealing with people who don't know. But the truth of the matter is that the people in Niger,
Mm.
the people in Burkina Faso,
Mm.
the people in Mali,
Mm.
the people in Guinea,
Mm.
now even Senegal now, the people
Yeah.
are kicking up, even Nigerians, they don't want you
Yeah.
to know this. They're pushing the Nigerians through ECOWAS
Mm.
to go and do divide and conquer, go and fight, use them to kill
Yeah.
each other, to shed each other's blood, one brother against the next, for
Yeah.
France,
Yeah.
for Europe,
Yeah.
for America,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So that they can have access to the resources. So BRICS is Belt and Road. That's what BRICS is. It has nothing to do with what they think it has to do. Let me say it again.
Mm.
The Belt and Road
Mm.
agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
BRICS is.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
We talked about it.
That's
I mean,
all
even
it is.
the foundation
Yeah.
of BRICS. I mean,
Yeah.
Africans were not there.
No.
We were invited later on. I mean,
South
the founder of
Africa
those, they were
is-
European.
Any African nation that joined BRICS is a token. African token, that's all it is. It's to make us feel like we have a seat at the table. All people are doing is leveraging our pain and the colonization and exploitation of Africans to get access to what? African resources.
That's what I always.
That's all.
That's what we always talk about, my brother. That the solution to Africa's problem is unity.
That's it.
It's unity.
That's it.
Until well, you just take a look. Take a look at West Africa. How much richness is in Ghana?
Gold Coast.
Nigeria, Burkina
yeah,
Faso, and Niger. Mali, and all these countries. But see how many conflicts are going there.
Of course.
Terrorism going
Right.
there. And the reason why, it's because they just want to separate. They want us to focus on,
Yes.
fighting with one another, buying weapons, but not really focusing on developing ourselves. And now you have organization like ECOWAS, who is last year put sanction on Mali. This year is putting sanction on Niger. But we don't even, it's like we don't even know. Like we are being used, like they're using our own organization to divide us, to pull us back, and we're not focusing on anything else
So you know the solution?
but war.
The solution, as we said earlier, is that we need to sanction ourselves.
Yes.
You
Yes.
see?
Yes.
Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about that.
because you
Let's
see,
talk about
because
sanctioning ourselves.
As long as ECOWAS is funded
Yeah.
by anybody other than African people. As
It's
long
not
as,
our own.
as long as
African Union.
as long as the African Union
Mm.
is financed by any other nation or ethnicity other than indigenous Africans.
Yeah. We're doomed.
There's no way, absolutely no way that we will unify or that we will benefit from the land that is called Africa.
There is no way.
There is no way.
Because it's there for that very reason, for dividing us.
Right.
Well,
Right.
please, go
Yeah,
continue.
it's okay. And this is the uncomfortable truth. You said radical truth, right?
Radical truth.
You
brother.
sure? You still want to stand the
radical truth?
Okay.
This is
You
radical
sure?
truth. I'm
You
sure.
ready for this? Radical truth?
100%. I'm ready.
Okay.
I was born ready.
Okay. The problem we have
Mm.
in the Caribbean,
Mm.
the problem we have in the United States.
Mm.
I'm talking about our people.
Yeah.
The problem we have on the continent. I'm talking about our people. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about Chinese and
Yeah.
Arabs
Yeah.
and Indians
Us.
and whites.
Mm.
Please, y'all listen carefully to what I'm saying.
Mm.
I'm choosing my words the way I'm choosing them so you can understand.
Mm.
Everyone is going to look after their own interests, and they will say whatever they have to say to convince you that they mean well for you. That's them. I can't fault them for that.
Mm.
They will do what they feel they must do to get what they want.
Mm. Mm.
I'm not speaking about whether they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's established that all of this stuff is wrong.
Mm.
Our problem, though, on the continent, our
Mm.
problem on in the diaspora, all right, is that we want to appeal to the consciences of these people for them to do the right thing by us. After how many hundreds of years? How many
Ain't gonna happen.
thousands?
Ain't gonna happen.
And so how do we appeal to them? We say we want foreign direct investment or DFI, direct foreign investment. We want to develop and empower our youth and the continent. We want to develop our infrastructure. We want to do all these good things. That's what we say. We want to do this. We want to do that. But to do it, because we are looking to outsiders.
Yeah.
We say we need Mr. Investor Bill Gates or Mr. Investor Halliburton or Mr. Investor, whoever you want to call them, to come and invest their money, however they got the money, and develop our continent for us. Who will own that continent once they invest the money? Yes, money that they stole, money that got from slavery, money that they you name it, I don't care. Once they come with the money, however they got the money, and they invest in your roads. Let's use China, for example.
They own it.
Yeah, they own it.
They own it.
We need to get over this thing. If we want an Africa that is developed, we must develop it ourselves. And this is not the rantings and the ravings of a madman. I'm telling you, it is human nature. If you don't find a way, I'm not saying that you know how right now today, but if you don't sanction yourself and say, I cannot do trade with Europe, I cannot do trade with America, I cannot do trade with China. I'm not a madman. I want you to listen carefully. If you don't say that I'm not waiting for you, America, or you in NATO to sanction us like you did Zimbabwe
and Eritrea.
I'm not going to wait for you to sanction us. We're going to sanction ourselves.
Yeah.
But understand, when we sanction ourselves, it means that we have sanctioned you.
Exactly.
It means if I can't do business with you, because if you sanction me, you would say you can't do business with me. It means whatever businesses you own in our continent. All right? We have to change the relationship. Either you get out, or we have to change. We have to nullify that agreement, because everything about the way that leaders have contracted with non-Africans to quote unquote develop the continent has been done on a basis of bad faith.
Yeah.
You know that term, that legal term, bad faith.
Yeah.
You came to the agreement as an investor saying that you're going to provide jobs, saying that you're going to develop, do technology transfer, saying that you're going to do all these wonderful things. But at the end of the day, there are no jobs. At the end of the day, in the case of China, for example, they will lend you the money. They will bring the Chinese employees.
And your people will be working in the toilet.
You have to pay, yes, and you will have to pay back this money, but they took the money that they loaned you, they paid it to their own citizens and took the money back to China. And you are saying, whoo, they don't interfere. How you mean they don't interfere?
They lend you the money, they bring their expertise, and you pay them, all of them. They like, so basically we, African government, we pay them.
Yes.
They're working and we pay them.
Yes.
And they take.
And that's China. America does the same thing. Different style, same outcome. The outcome is that we are left to pay back money. With what money? Was that money added to the circulation of the money existing in the economy? Was it African subcontractors that got the work and hired Africans? Were they able to now start businesses, some of those employees? No. The money came into the country and it left. Oh, we're not interfering with your politics. We're better than the US. The US is bad. Europe is bad. Unacceptable.
It's the same.
There's no difference. That's my point.
It is the same.
It's the same agenda.
It's better to have somebody who actually show you what they're doing. If they're interfering, they're showing that we're interfering, instead of having someone who's not showing, like, smile and I'm not really engaged, but they have sneaky moves.
Yeah. You don't pay that back. You ask Uganda. You don't pay back. Ask Sri Lanka. You don't pay back. Ask where in the Caribbean now? Is it Jamaica? Which one? Anyway, you just ask them what happens when you don't pay. And it's all part of the BRICS, all part of the Belt and Road Initiative. And so my point is, I don't want to get lost in the details, and I don't want people to feel that I'm bashing. I'm not bashing. This is radical truth. Okay, so the bottom line is this. I don't want to hear. I'm so tired of hearing, oh, we have the resources, but we don't have the know-how, or we don't have the finances. It's a lie. It's a lie. You have the know-how. You need to go and call the know-how back to their homeland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether they were born in Africa, you have a
Mhm.
lot of Africans from Africa, born in Africa, living in Europe, living in Asia. I even met there's a Tanzanian in Japan. So I saw. I wish he would do his program in English so I can know what he's saying. Very interesting to hear what he's saying. You have so many Africans from the continent, outside of the continent. Okay, you have so many African diaspora. We're not all poor and stupid. That's the image that people have of us. We're not all gangsters and prostitutes. That's the image that people have of us. All right? And those of us who don't have money, we have know-how. So the know-how to do what we need and the money is outside. But we are not leveraging, our governments are not leveraging our people. I want to stop and give you an opportunity to respond, because I can go on and on and on. My frustration is not with white man, not because of my skin color people. I'm a black man. My frustration is not with the Indian man. He's been an Indian.
They got to do what they got to do to survive.
They're doing what they feel they have to, because after all, we are the ones that are blessed with the most of the resources.
The problem is with us, brother.
The problem is us.
Is with us. And you know, I was quiet here, man. Like I'm crying right now. And the reason why I'm crying, it is because I was actually just having a moment of prayer to pray that, God, what can we do? Why should we do?
There's so much we can do.
Because when you think about this, like when you have this radical truth conversation, you realize that these problems are they have been orchestrated for so long, for 1,000 years ago.
We think it's natural.
And we think it's natural. Every single thing that is happening is planned. For me, I believe, like even the pandemic. Now we have Ukraine war. There's something else is gonna come.
Those are others, because those are topics for themselves. But yes, they are. Yes, that's why. Let me tell you something. That's why so many people are coming. They see it, but we see it with some level of ignorance. We don't see the full picture.
You know. The funny thing is, every single thing that they projected about the pandemic, and I'll say this is the truth, because we had people who say that Africa, they're going to lose a lot of millions and millions of people. They're going to die in Africa. They projected that because of how we behaved when it came. But everything they projected, it actually happened opposite.
Yeah.
It did not happen to Africa like the way it happened to other places.
Yes.
And also a lot of African descendants, they actually moved back to Africa because of that.
Every move they make, you see, because once we know who we are, my brother, listen, you see what you just said is profound. Everything that they projected and they pushed on Africa
Absolutely
has backfired, and it will backfire and will continue to backfire. But if you want to really see it backfire in a massive way, let our people on the continent and our people off the continent realize who we are.
Yes.
Then we will understand who is doing this thing and why.
Yeah.
Who is doing it and why. And then we'll know what we need to do. But for most of us, like Abraham, he did not know which land that the Most High Yahweh was sending him to until he exercised his faith and start moving under the guidance.
Exactly.
Start going to where he directs you.
Yeah.
You don't know. A lot of our people, we want to know everything. We want to make sure we have everything in place.
You ain't gonna know unless you leave, unless you take that leap of faith and start moving.
He left.
It's action.
The scripture says he believed Yahweh and he accredited or counted it to him as faith.
My brother, let me
moved. He didn't believe. He moved based on the belief. He moved.
Let me give you my testimony. I gotta give you my testimony because, and also after that, we're going to talk about LGBTQ. All right, we're going to talk about that agenda. We have to talk and how exactly to Africa as well. Exactly, everything. It's not going to succeed. When I left Tanzania, when I left Africa, and I went to Korea. After 1 year, second year, my plan, it was not to move back to Africa. I did not want to move back home.
So many of our people are like that.
Exactly.
Right.
So I stayed there for 9 years. And I believe when I stayed there for 7 years, it was already like my time to live in Korea was already done. I was supposed to move back, but I pushed. I went all the way to 9 years,
Right.
almost 10 years. When my time came to move back,
Yeah.
by the way, the last 2 years, after 7 years, the last 2 years until 9 years, it was a hell. It was a hell to me. It was like in a way it was like I was not where I was supposed to be. So nothing went good, went right. I survived, I ate, I slept. It's like God was giving me manna of every single day, and that's it. But I was struggling. Like, brother, I was struggling. One day I'll go into details, but let me just say that I was struggling.
You know why I'm smiling, right? I'll let you finish and then I'll tell you why I'm smiling.
All right.
Yeah.
To the point where you even feel like the government there is working against you with everything that you have given for all the time. Because things I've done in South Korea, I did a lot. I was even honored. I was given the honorary citizenship because of what I did there.
Look at that.
I was given I have a gold card here. I can go to South Korea anytime I have.
Look at that.
I want. I was given a medal because of what I did to actually to promote South Korea to the rest of the world. But the last 2 years, it was like a hell to me. But look at this. So my plan, it was not to come back home. I was running away from home. So what I did is, after those 2 years,
to run away from
yes, I was trying even to run away more. So I applied for scholarship to another country.
Right.
Spain, Barcelona.
Right.
Guess what? I got it.
Right.
So I was like, my plan was just to leave Korea to go straight to Barcelona. Spain.
Right.
So I applied for visa there. And those guys at the embassy, they told me that, hey, my brother, you cannot have a visa here. You need to go back home to apply visa from the embassy, Spain embassy from Tanzania. I was like, all right. So I had to come back home, but I was not ready to come back. I had to come back to only apply for visa and to leave.
That's what you're told and that's what you're thought.
Exactly. That was my thought. So I had everything, like my bag packed. I had admission. I knew that on October I'm going to start that was September, around September. And on October I need to go to start school.
Right.
Everything is ready.
Right.
The moment I came back to Tanzania, my brother, I was there at the airport. The moment I just landed there, I knew, I'll say this again, I knew in my spirit that I am supposed to be here. I knew. I don't know why, but I knew that I'm supposed to be here. So this is what I did. Yes, I knew that I'm supposed to be here. So what I did is I pick up my phone and I call Spain, Barcelona, to that university that I was supposed to go.
Yes.
And I told that organizer that, I'm sorry, I'm not coming. And she was like, oh, why are you not coming? I was like, it's hard to explain this to her. So I was like, no, I know that I'm supposed to be here with my family. She was like, okay, then we're just going to keep this scholarship for you for 1 more year. It's okay. We can do that for you. After 1 year, you can come. And I was like, no, I know that I'm not going to come. So that scholarship and that opportunity, please give to somebody else, not for me. And that, my brother, it was the best decision I've ever done in my life. Because after that, I've been here in Tanzania almost for 2 years right now. After that, it was like God telling me that, good job, my brother. That's when I just landed here. That's when I went to Ethiopia 4 times last year. And I didn't go there because I wanted to go. No, I was invited.
Right.
And I was paid for everything,
right?
Everything, living in the 5-star hotel for Pan-African Youth Summit, for different activities related to Africa. If I was in Spain, I would never be there.
Right.
I would never do what I did last year. And even this, maybe what we're doing today, it would never be here. Right. But until right now, I know that. So people, they ask me all the time, they say, no, that, oh, I'm supposed to be in Africa. I'm supposed to be here. Now we're here in our own office. And my mission right now is to bring my people back home. That's actually is the mission, our mission. Let me say a little bit our mission here in Swahili Nation One Africa. Our mission is this: to defend the image of Africa and bring back all the heritage, sons and daughters of Africa to the continent, to decolonize the mind through authentic knowledge and to create a bridge for oneness and peaceful Africa. That's our mission. And our vision is toward one Africa of solidarity in peace and love. That is our vision. So I had to say that because even me myself, and we have a lot of Africans, my friends, a lot of my friends are still there, and they don't want to come back
No.
home. Even us, we don't want to come back home because of all this stuff. But
That's my beef.
I thank my King for that revelation on that day at the airport, to know that I'm supposed to be here. And it was not an easy choice, because I had to tell my parents that I'm not going to school.
Of course.
Yes, and I had to tell them that scholarship can give to somebody else.
Trust me, I understand.
And I had no
exactly.
idea what is there for me next. But because of that step of faith, we're here today.
You know, that's it, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take it. There's no way around it. You know, I can't remember the exact study, but somebody can research it on the internet, or you can research this on the internet to verify and to confirm what I said, what I'm going to say. A survey was done some years back. I have to find it, but you can find it.
Yeah.
And in this survey, they asked Africans if they had the opportunity to leave Africa, would they leave? And if they left, where would they go to? It was like a what if question. What if you had the opportunity to leave Africa to go anywhere? Would you leave? And where would you go to? Over 85% of the participants in that survey said yes. If the big problem with leaving Africa is getting visas to go to certain countries in so-called developed and so forth. They would say they would leave, and then a very high percentage of those, the vast majority of them, said they would go to the West. They'll go to Europe or America or Canada. And that's a sad statistic. It says so much. Just those two questions and the results of that survey speaks volumes about where we are as Africans. I'm not talking about Africans in the diaspora.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm talking about my brothers and sisters. And the big question is why? We know some of the answers. The first answer is, well, we are educated, but we have no jobs. Or we have jobs, but what we earn, we can hardly, we have nothing to show for it. We can't afford a car. We can't afford to raise. These are all the reasons why young people give for why they would go on a boat and overload a boat and die trying to get to Europe. That's after going through the Sahara Desert. Or why people do what they do, the 411 scams or what have you. My point is this. People are willing to risk their lives because they believe, they have faith that Europe is the promised land, that America is the promised land, that Canada. Now they've gotten so to the point where they feel China is the promised land. And I'm here to tell anyone who is willing to listen, just as Abraham left, going to a place he didn't know. Because he knew who he was.
That was prophetic.
And he knew who was telling him to go. He left. And the world has not been the same ever since.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I was to tell you this uncomfortable truth for our enemies, and uncomfortable truth for those of us who are still stuck in the lie that is called history as they taught us, and we've been socialized to believe. If I was to tell you that the slaves, the people who were taken into slavery, the west coast of Africa and even the east, that we share the same ancestor, and his name is Abraham, you would say I lied to you. If I was to tell you that the land that is called Israel, or the land flowing, or Canaan, let's say Canaan, let's use that one to avoid geopolitics. Canaan, the land that flows with milk and honey, is actually a significant part, a huge part
Yeah.
of Agibulan or Africa.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I was to tell you, not only are we the descendants of Abraham, because he had more than 2 sons.
Mm.
He had sons by Keturah.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
one son
Yeah.
by Sarai or
Yeah.
Saraya,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
By the way, my grandchild's name is Saraya,
Wow.
right?
Mm. Mm.
And and he had Ishmael
Mm.
by Hagar,
Yeah. Yeah.
Misraim, right? If I was to tell you that the vast majority of Abraham's children make up the vast majority of sub-Saharan Africa, you would tell me I lie too.
Yeah.
Why am
Yeah.
I saying all of this? Because identity is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't know who
Yeah.
you are, if
Yeah.
you allowed somebody to redefine you through colonization and slavery,
Yeah.
then guess what?
Uh.
They can use you for anything.
And in that note, let me just
Yes.
respond to one person here,
Okay.
Aaron. Let me
Yes.
just respond to you.
Yes.
This is what they don't want you to know. So a lot of people, when they hear this conversation, this which is what she's saying then in the comment section, that they're talking about Jesus. Jesus is Western
No.
agenda. Let me say this. Let me say this
No.
once again. Let me just say. Let me address
That's
to
part of the lies.
just for
Yes.
because I really
Yes.
care for you. So
Yes,
let me
yes,
address
yes.
this to you. That Aaron, that's one of the reasons why they don't want you to talk about that. Because the moment you start talking about this, you will figure out who you are. And that agenda has been hidden for so long, even through those so-called missionaries who came to Africa for another reason. You can hate the messenger, but don't hate the message. The message is pure. The message is truth. All right? So these guys, they don't want you to get to know that. So we have this conversation all the time. When you talk about this, the only thing that we will say, oh, you're talking about religion. Oh, you're talking about this. I don't want to hear that.
I'm talking about identity.
And because of that, you will
Religion.
never find who you are, because
Yeah.
you are not, even me. I'm not just Mika from Hair Tribe. I need to find out, where is Hair coming from? Where is that origination? I need to go to my roots to figure out who am I really? Like, I need to ask my grandparents. I need to ask everybody from that to know the history even before the Hair was there, because there must be somewhere. And this conversation, they are helping us to get there, to at least find out who we really are. So if it's something that you do not agree with it's something that you don't, it's okay. Like, you don't have to agree with it. But, you can listen. If you don't want to listen, that's cool. You can even, leave this live stream. You don't have to watch. Nobody forced you to watch. But we need to have this conversation, because we have been lost for so long. And if we do not give each other a chance to have a conversation, and we just look each other, oh, no, you're speaking nonsense. Oh, yes, we will never find out who we really are. I want us to talk a little bit, my brother, about this agenda of LGBTQ.
Yes, it's very important.
Yeah, because we're having this conversation area. And I even mentioned that, they're not doing the same thing to Arabs. They're not pushing this agenda. But why specifically to Africa? They're targeting Africa, even telling us that, you know what, if you don't accept this, you're not gonna have what? There'll be no aids, there'll be no loans. That's why we have to sanction ourselves.
We have to sanction ourselves.
Yes, and also right now, you are sharing this with me yesterday and today, but I knew this before.
Yes.
And what I knew is that right now, what is happening, even these NGOs that are in Africa, their secret agenda is to push that agenda of LGBTQ. Yeah. That is their secret agenda that they do here in Tanzania. I'll tell you the truth, it's not even in the closet. The leader of this country, one of the leader of this country, was talking about it. Tanzanians knows about it already.
Okay.
That kids have been trained and this and this. I mean, not like everything was just on the open space. Everybody knows. But this is not just in one country, but in the entire continent of Africa, there's this secret movement through NGOs. They are pushing this agenda slowly. And what is so hard, and that's why kudos to Uganda for what President Museveni did, because
and
when
Ghana
as well,
100% of the parliament said, hey,
absolutely, they say
this
that
the Supreme Court on a technicality, turned it down. They came back, 100% said no, sir.
They say no, and I shared it here in Kenya. Even the president also said that, and they're talking about it.
Yes.
It's
Zambia, the people,
exactly. Zambia as well. This is disgusting. First of all, when you think about the kids, when you think about the kids,
the family,
the families, when you think about how the family should be,
Mhm.
you know, and when you think about even because even later in the future, I was talking about this the other
Mhm.
day that you know, when you have uh, this is radical truth, so I'm gonna be radical.
Please.
I was talking about this the other day that, you know, the way that God designed man and woman, he knew that, you know, you're not just gonna, you know, be like, you know, making love from Monday to another Monday, January, you know, to December, because there's things like period, there's things like pregnancy. Like there's a way that God created this balance naturally,
Yes.
that you're not just gonna, you know, your relationship with you husband and wife is not
Right.
just gonna be about, you know,
Right.
sex, but it's
Right.
gonna be about relationship, about
Right.
you two people. But this agenda, what is happening if it's a guy and a guy?
Let's call it alphabet agenda. You know, remember that algorithm, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
Alphabet agenda.
from January to December to another January, the only thing that you focus on is in that, in sex. And also you have another thing that, you know, adoption of kids. Like these people these days, they can adopt kids, and these kids have been raised in the environment that they don't get to experience love from both parents, maybe
No.
mom and dad. So they grow up
Confused.
confused, and also eventually they'll become
Identifying with, yeah.
exactly.
That kid.
So at the end of the day, where we are going is that we are not gonna have kids anymore.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
We're not gonna have families
let me-
anymore.
exactly, and that's the large part of the agenda. So when we came here, using Tanzania as an example, Tanzania had 61.5 million people.
Yeah.
Now it's 67 million
Yeah.
plus
Mm.
people. The growth rate was 2.97%.
Mm.
You have Uganda, you have Tanzania, you have so many so-called sub-Saharan African countries have a positive growth rate. That's not only replacing the population. You need 2.1 babies statistically, right? 0.1 baby, what's that? Anyway, to maintain your population.
Yeah.
Anything above that, you're adding to the population.
Mm.
Do you know that that's like the worst sin or crime as far as the West is concerned?
Mm. Yeah.
With Africa? Because remember now, Africa is going to have two, that's their crime. As far as they're concerned, you see, what this alphabet agenda does, like you said, is it's a way of cutting down the population.
Exactly.
Reducing the population. So you have the stuff that you're doing using fake science and medicine.
Yeah.
Then you have this agenda, the alphabet agenda. Then you have the stuff that you're spraying in the sky, which only now Africans are beginning to understand what that's about. But in the West, they're doing that. And yeah, there's a lot of that. We are in a war, and it's a multifaceted war.
Yeah.
And this agenda, this alphabet agenda, is a huge part of it. If you don't reproduce, like you said, then what happens?
Yeah.
So what is happening now is that they are hoping to not only reduce the population using this agenda, but now they want you to identify as a gender different than who you are. Then the next step, they want to do what is called transhumanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And transhumanism is that, okay, now I'm no longer a human, just a human. I'm a human and I'm a machine as well. Neuralink.
Yeah. 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 That's what is happening right now.
Yeah, I'm no longer a human being. I can identify as whatever. So, is Africa going for this one? Are we really going to go for that?
You're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking.
You know,
is there a chance that we might change our mind, because that's what they're hoping?
I know Africans will never accept that. The only issue and the problem that we have is like we have this leverage of these loads and aids, which most of our leaders, they're even scared right now to oppose the alphabet agenda. They're scared to oppose because of the backlash. What kind of backlash will come? And that's why you say it's important for us to sanction ourselves and to have that unity, because all these agendas are coming to us for one reason: to dehumanize us, because what is happening right now is dehumanization.
That's it.
It's dehumanization.
That's it.
And when you go to the West,
That's
the
it.
West is already broken. Too much.
Already dehumanized.
You can
already,
only
yes.
come to Africa and see that, okay, these are human beings are living. That's why a
Okay.
lot of people are moving here.
Okay.
Even not even black people,
I'm
even
telling
Caucasian
you,
people
and
moving back here.
They even moving to Zanzibar of all places. Imagine. They
Exactly.
come to go to Zanzibar also.
Yeah,
You know, not just as visitors, well.
yeah.
Yes.
They're,
You're
they're,
right.
they're moving back because
Yeah.
they can experience at least, okay, like at least Africa right now is still not corrupted this
Right.
much. At least human beings are living here.
At
And
least
not to
human beings.
disrespect anybody else,
No.
but all these agendas that are happening is dehumanizing our
Anti-human,
people.
anti-natural, anti-human.
Exactly. And it, because even the robotic right now, like robots and everything
Yes.
that is happening, man, this man, when God created human being, man, your brain, you as a human being is much better than even a computer. Not to say that we don't
Right.
we don't even need it. Your brain is so smart and
Right.
bright
Right.
than computer, than all these robots, than all these machines that we are creating today.
AI, all
Even
these
the
things.
AI, the agenda that is happening right now. Yes, we can learn to take advantage of it, but you should never look down on yourself and think like there's something better that is coming
But
than
it's about
yourself.
control.
Exactly.
See,
It's about
this whole
controlling.
thing is about control. It's about depopulation. It's about control. And the big question I have to ask is, who is in control? See, I keep going back to the same questions. What are they doing?
That's $1
Who
million
is doing
question.
it?
Yeah.
Why are they doing it?
Mm.
And once you know the answers to those three questions, the biggest question of them all is, what are we prepared to do about it to stop them? You see,
What are
we're
we
talking
prepared
radical
to
truth
do
now.
to stop them?
Stop them. So
It is possible.
it's like this agenda that was around when the previous administration was here. Okay, the way he stopped it by is you don't comply with the first thing they come with, you don't comply. You don't comply with wearing the mask. That's the first thing. Yeah.
Mm.
What happened? Oh,
Oh no.
you
Please
don't
put the charge in my phone.
Okay, you don't comply with wearing the mask. That was the first thing. Once you comply with the mask, then they're gonna get you with every other one.
Absolutely.
You see?
Absolutely.
And so you don't comply with anything. And this is the thing that they're leading us towards. Now, am I against advancement? My background is in information technology.
Yes. So you know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, it's information technology.
IT.
And I don't have a company now. Okay,
Mm.
okay, I registered one, but it's not operational.
Mm.
All right.
Mm.
And it's not just information technology. In fact, it's not information technology, but
Mm.
I use that and I will use that
Mm.
for what we are doing in agriculture when we get that started. My
Yeah.
point is that
Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that.
somebody, and we know the bodies, we can call the names.
Yeah.
We won't.
Mm.
People, there are people who want absolute control over everything, every life form, every human being, every continent. But the crown jewel, the prize, is Africa. When we Africans on the continent and the diaspora realize that the prize is Africa, then we have decisions to make. And we don't have until 2063 to make those decisions. Eh? We have to make the decision now.
Right now.
Now is the appointed time. This is not religion. This is not hate. This is not racism.
No, man. That's why. Let me just say this. That's why African descendants, you must come back home to protect this land. It will take all of us. It will take
All
the
of us.
local Africans. It will take you as well, because you guys, you have knowledge. You guys, you know how the world work outside there. You've been part of it for a while, and
You're right.
for a while.
Yes.
Exactly. But the time has come, and the time
Yeah.
is now to defend the motherland,
So,
because the other part of the earth has been destroyed already.
Mhm.
It's been corrupted
It's
already.
finished.
Don't let nobody tell you that your continent has corrupted leaders, it has this and this and that. It's just the little agendas to make you guys not come back home. But we've all seen how many people have been killed. You can start from Gaddafi, you can start from Sankara, Pierre Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah. You can name all of these people. How many people, like how much, how desperate they are, that if someone like you or like me stand up and start speaking this truth. And we have seen even in the Western countries, how many people have received backlash, been cancelled, because of just this black consciousness, because of what we are talking here today. And if you do not understand that, I mean, all the evidence are out there.
They're not afraid of black consciousness, you know. And now, for those of you who are listening, don't get offended. Please listen and hear my heart, okay? They're not afraid of black consciousness. If by black consciousness you mean that we recognize that we are all black people, we are all Africans. That doesn't frighten them. You know what frightens them? Is knowing who we are and doing something about it. And know where we come from and doing something about taking responsibility for its development. And that's Africa. We can be as conscious as we want, but if we do nothing about it, they will let us talk. They will let us talk. They will let us talk and talk and talk. What you are calling for, what I've heard you call for, what people like Ronald Dalton Jr., right, Hebrews and Hebrews, what he's calling for. People like you have Jacoba and Theo for Theo Ministries. You have people like Pastor Stephen Darby. You have people like Dante Fortson, right? You have people like Benaiah Israel. I don't know if any of these names you've heard before. Some of them you've heard.
I did.
Okay, great. And there are others that are unknown. People who have just been under the radar, right? For decades, literally, that people don't know about. When we decide to do, and it has started. We've decided to start to do. But all of us have to do it. We have to do it together. We can't come and do it. You can't do it by yourself. We have, the two sticks have to come together. Okay, we're not talking religion. And when we come together, that's what they're afraid of. That's why they killed Malcolm X. That's why they killed Martin Luther King. That's why they killed Gaddafi. And he wasn't even indigenous, he was an Arab. But he was doing some good. Okay, great good. And he was going to mess with their banking system. And they said, no, we have to get rid of this guy. Okay? We can call names. We can go very close to home. We'll leave that one alone for other reasons. My point is this. Black consciousness should lead us to self-identification. And self-identification by necessity must lead us to action. Because when you identify yourself and you know who you are and you know what has happened to you, then you realize that Africa is not going forward unless Africans take it forward.
Absolutely.
Until Africans return to the ancient path. And take ownership over where we are and where we need to be. Nobody's coming to do it for us, my brother. Nobody's coming to do it for us. Please, if you remember anything we say, remember this. No one is coming to give you the Africa you want. They're coming to build the Africa they're going to take from you. And you have the ability. You have it. But if you don't know who you are, you will not know what your purpose and destiny is.
The fight for liberation and for Africa did not stop after independence. It actually began after independence.
Because the independence we think we have, we never really have.
We don't have it.
It was just a stepping stone. We were supposed to, but we allowed. You know, brother, I will say this about this alphabet agenda. So they want to reduce the population. They want to stop us from. But why? See, again, this is the what. They're doing. But let's talk about why. Okay. Do you know that based on the birth rate of Africans, they like to use the term Black Africans. You know, that's a problematic term. But the population rates across the board in sub-Saharan Africa and the African diaspora, in spite of abortion, in spite of the bad quality of the food, in spite of everything, we are growing to the point where in 2045 we will be 25% of the world's population. If nothing else changes. I say it will be more because of what they did for the past 3 years. Okay, we're going to be much higher than 25. But based on their estimates before their agenda started 3 years ago, the population is projected to be 1 in 4 persons walking the face of this earth will be African, sub-Saharan African.
That reminded me of.
But yeah, and then 2100. They're saying they're going to be 40%. I want to ask a question. Do you, listening or watching, believe that those people are comfortable with those statistics?
Not at all.
And that's the why. That's the why for what they're doing and have been doing. So if we do nothing, if we don't sanction ourselves, and by that we mean just imagine that we don't have any friends. We don't have
Yeah. Yeah.
anybody to look to come and help save us poor Africans. We're not poor.
We're never poor.
If we don't get to the place where we realize that we have to find solutions on our own, we have to make an assessment of what we have in the area of not just natural resources, but human resources on the planet, on the continent and off the continent, then we'll never solve the problem. You know, Zimbabwe today, because of sanctions, Zimbabwe now produces enough wheat to feed itself to the point where they're getting ready to export wheat. Why? Because of sanctions. Nobody will sell to them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think if we get to the point where we say, you know what if we treated ourselves as though we were sanctioned? What can we do to solve our own problems? And tell those people who want the resources, if you want the resources, you have to come and actually wage war against us the conventional way and come attack us and stop pretending. That's my problem I have, is the pretense.
You know, in that note, I want us to talk a little bit about, Dr. Magufuli, because I think.
You sure we can talk about Dr. Magufuli?
Yeah. I want us to talk a little bit to remind ourselves about, of course, what he did and what he believed in, because I think it was one of the few leaders that we had recently that he practiced what he said. He knew what he was saying. And he did not he did not afraid about anything. He literally gave himself for that's what he said, one of his speech.
I decided
I sacrificed myself.
Sacrifice my life.
Yeah, my life for you guys. And he always say that msema kweli ni mpenzi wa Mungu, like whoever that speak truth is the friend of God. He always used to say that. It's one of the rare examples that you find of leaders today who therefore to walk the talk, right? To walk the talk. And me personally, I'm saying this because me personally, what I do, it was highly inspired by him when he came to regime here in Tanzania. I remember I was in South Korea, and when I saw him doing what he does, it really inspired me. And after he died, that was kind of like the climax of what I was doing. It was like awakening. I was like, all right, I've been listening to him all the time, and now he's gone. He's not gonna talk this anymore. Okay, we gotta keep fighting. We gotta keep moving forward. So that's when I really dropped everything, and I was like, all right, we gotta deal with this. And then I started to do it. But I would like us to remind ourselves that because one of the biggest agenda that he was saying, and he was always addressing to Africa, not just here, and he always had this African map on his suit, and what he always talked about, it is the ability of us as Africans to solve our own issues, and promoting Africanness, and telling us that you guys are rich. He was saying that this country is very rich. You guys, you don't know, we are very rich. We don't need anything. And he proved that in so many actions that he did. And I think this is the time for us to remind each other our ability and our potential as Africans by looking at someone who was just here 2 years ago, and he did it. He proved it. He didn't just speak, but he did it. They were not ready for him. And during his funeral, I would love, let me share this video.
I went to the viewing, by the way.
You went there?
I went, but I had to leave because people were so distraught.
Yeah.
But
please let me share this video. I have to share this video for you guys to see first. And this was the speech of the president. I believe he was president of the president of Malawi. Yes, I have to share this. This is one of the best speech he gave. I need to share this, and then we're gonna carry on from there. They didn't see him coming. That's how I titled it. They didn't see Magufuli coming. Yeah, I need to share this. This was one of the best. I need to share this, and we can talk. Because I remember even after his death, people from the Caribbean, they were actually outside of the street. I remember those news. We saw those news. So let me just share this video a little bit here. this speech for you guys to see what I'm talking about. Okay, let me. Where can I put it here? Is it there on the screen? Gotta be there on the screen. Let me do this. Paul, how do you see that? Can you see the screen, the video in the on the screen? Yeah, you cannot see it. Let me play. Maybe people they will hear it. Guys, let me know if you can hear this. Can you guys hear that?
Hey, I join you all in a state of shock and grief, representing not just myself, but all the peoples of Malawi, at the passing of one of Africa's finest sons, because none of us saw it coming. This ability to let no one see his next move coming, which we find unsettling in death, is also what we find inspiring in life. When they said laziness and sloth in public service cannot be cured, they did not see Magufuli coming.
Come on now.
When they said the cartel of corruption strangling Africa's governments cannot be defeated, they did not see Magufuli coming. When they said African states,
What is happening? This video has to go out there.
Yeah, man.
cannot become middle-income economies within a single presidential term. They didn't see Magufuli coming. When they said infrastructural projects in Africa cannot be completed on time and on budget, they did not see Magufuli coming. When they said the only way to pursue our development is to follow failed prescriptions of foreign financial institutions that have left Africa more impoverished and in debt than they found it, they did not see Magufuli coming. To us, who had the privilege of knowing the unpredictable Magufuli, the example of his life of service shall forever be a launching pad of our own. To us who have the honor of going through this world as Africans, Magufuli's love of country shall forever be a light on that pilgrimage. To us who have been entrusted with governing the nations of our beautiful and rich continent, Magufuli's leadership shall forever move us out of complacency. It is right for us to hold him in this regard. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli was not just an icon, he was a hero. May his name be preserved in every capital of Africa as a symbol of the kind of resolve that will create the Africa we want. May his work be venerated in every village as an example of worthy of our imitation. And may his soul rest in eternal peace as he meets with his God, with whom we hope to one day see Magufuli coming. Madam President, we will stand with you. Tanzanians, Malawians will stand with you. My friend, kwaheri ndugu yangu. My deepest condolences to you all.
All right. Yeah. So when this happened, anyways, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about. I mean, I know you have a lot to say, and also even why why you came here. So I'm just gonna leave it to you. Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm happy that you excuse me, that you played that video, that video footage.
Mhm.
Um, it that video footage left an indelible mark on my mind because the president of Malawi couldn't have said it any better,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Not so many words, not so long a speech. I also thank you for playing that because I am very passionate, as you are,
Mhm.
about these issues. And our passion can get to the point where I speak fast and I speak loud.
Mm.
And I want those of you who are listening to understand that what you're hearing is only passion.
Yeah.
It is nothing else but a sincerely held belief and conviction about these issues that are critically important to discuss and to take action on.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I was in Puerto Rico preparing for a transition from the Dominican Republic, where my family and I were staying for 9 years.
Mm.
And we were going to spend 4 years in Puerto Rico.
Mm.
And during those 4 years, the plan was I would be traveling back and forth
Mm.
between the Caribbean and Puerto Rico because I didn't feel comfortable leaving my wife and children in the Dominican Republic.
Mm.
When this whole affair of the pandemic
Mm.
emerged, we had to fast forward our plans. We were not prepared.
Mm.
We were not prepared. And the plan was I would be traveling back and forth between Ghana
Mm.
and Puerto Rico
Mm.
to set up
Oh.
what we are doing. And then from Ghana, we would set up a branch in Tanzania, a branch in South Africa, a branch in Ethiopia, a branch in Nigeria
Mm.
of Frontline and our Bantu project.
Mm.
But the world was shut down it didn't take so long. I mean, Puerto Rico shut down and suddenly you couldn't really travel. Um, you couldn't freely travel.
Mm.
And so, because I told my wife and my children, I said, you know what? I said, this is it. We saw this coming.
Yeah.
For years, we knew this was coming. We didn't know how they were going to do it, but they did it. And we don't have time. So we left. And the plan was to come to a country that's open, stay there until Ghana opens, and then go.
Mm.
And when I did my research,
Mm.
there were a couple countries,
Mm.
but the African country that made sense for us was Tanzania.
Mm.
I don't know who is watching this, and I hope that. Anyway, let me don't go there.
Go. Go.
All I can say is we were planning to go to Ghana.
Mm.
But now, the reason why we felt even more comfortable coming here
Mm.
is because of the leadership that we saw in the
Mm.
late His Excellency Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli.
Mm.
And I don't speak for myself alone. I speak for my wife. I speak for every one of my children. Our children, the first two are adults. And I also speak for many Caribbean people and American, African American in the diaspora.
Mm.
We see or we saw in Magufuli an example
Mm.
of what African leadership
Mm.
should be.
Yeah.
And what he did, not only what he said,
Mm.
because he said
Mm.
a lot,
Mm.
but he backed everything up with action.
Mm.
What he said and what he did dispelled or erased every single stereotype and lie that
Yeah.
we all grew up listening to and hearing.
Mm.
The president of Malawi,
Mm.
he said it.
Mm.
Corruption.
Mm.
That's the first word that comes to everybody's mind when they think about
Yeah.
Africa,
Mm.
because of not only the stereotype, but the reality
Mm.
that we have all too often.
Mm.
I didn't say everyone.
Mm.
All too often, what we have is either a leader who will not lead the people by example,
Mm.
but he will lead the country into debt for his own financial or her own financial
Yeah.
benefit, A, or B, they will go along with what they're told to do because they're afraid to die.
Mm. Yeah.
They're afraid they know what will happen to them if they don't take that loan.
Mm.
Imagine now, these loans are by force. So
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize it. You ask the people in South America, these loans are by force.
Mm.
But when Magufuli came,
Mm.
we saw, all of us saw that he said, no,
Mm.
we don't want your loan. We don't want your money.
Mm.
We will sort this out. We will finance it ourselves. We have the money. We just have to manage our money better. I'm not throwing shade on anybody or any government per se, but I'm saying I find it awfully interesting that after his death and after his burial, you don't hear just about any political leader or president speak about his example. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's quiet. It's like he doesn't exist.
Mm. Yeah.
But when he died, I like to say, when he died, 1 million Magufulis were born.
Yeah. Yeah.
On this continent,
Yeah.
and outside this continent.
Absolutely.
His body died, his spirit left,
Mm.
but he has imparted.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, no, I say that wrong. The spirit of Yahweh, the spirit of God, has imparted what he imparted to him
Yeah.
to young people.
Exactly.
The future of Africa is young.
And that was his success.
That's his
Not
success.
about what even he did,
They killed his body.
but what he left.
What he left behind, his
He
legacy.
left a lot of mean.
Right.
Even though a lot of people are trying to really take away what he did.
Of course.
Opposition
Of
and everybody
course,
that
of
tried to
course.
say so many things by so much
course.
power, and someone is on the ground right now. He cannot even speak.
He can't speak
for himself.
Yeah, he can't speak for himself. But you see, action speaks louder than words. And what you see with your eyes will always remind you. 5 years prior to his death, this country was one way in terms of development. We're not going to deal with other things.
Yeah.
I'm told, this is what I'm told. I was told, and I don't know how this will come across, but I was told by not one person. I asked questions, people volunteer information. I've been told by so many people, young people in this country, that there was a time not so long ago when a poor person could not just walk into any office.
Oh yeah.
You mad?
Yeah.
They wouldn't dare enter. And that has changed. And even though he's gone, that has remained.
Yeah.
That change that he had has changed.
Yeah.
It's a good change.
Yeah.
Now people realize, look, that office is my office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have to serve me. We can go example after example. This man was a hero to us. And I want to say something to those of us who think that the African Union in its current form and leadership and practice work for the interest of Africans. And that the plans that they have and the goals that they have are excellent. They are not. I don't say this to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I say this because we
It's
don't have
truth.
time.
Radical truth.
We don't have
We
until
don't have a luxury of time.
We don't have till 2063 to get this
40
thing
years.
right. Are you serious? How old will you be in 4 years?
I'll
from
be
now?
70.
Okay. How old am I? I'm 61.
Yeah.
Where will I be?
You'll be
40? I hope in my
101.
life I'll be 101. Young people everywhere in Africa, young people in the diaspora, people my age who know themselves. We don't have 40 years.
Yeah.
Magufuli proved to all of us and to those leaders who are watching and the African Union, you don't need 40 years. You don't need 15 years to effect tremendous change. He did 5. Can you imagine 10?
5 years.
5 years.
He did 5 years.
5 years.
He broke all the system because he was dealing with the system. 5 years.
Okay.
The country, it was running like this 5 years. People were not resting. Because I was so close with a lot of people in the, in the government. I was so close. So out here, they're saying that
all we do here is work.
Yes. Work.
that's
like anytime,
motto, right?
you could receive a phone call at 2 a.m. in the morning and you need to wake up. 5 years. A lot of revolutionary leaders, they did not stay for long. And the change they brought, it was just for a short period of time. You can name anyone. They did not stay for long. For very short time. 5 years. Look at what has happened. For me, I'm a believer. So I'm a believer. Me as a believer, one of my role models, the first role model for me is Jesus. It's Christ.
I'm right there with you.
He was only here for 3 years.
Right.
And his impact until today, we still talk about it.
Right.
And it happened 2,000 years, more than 2,000 years ago. This is what I wrote it here when we started to talk about this, that I just got it here today. I feel like he was here and really like God showed us for a very short period of time that you guys can actually have it. You guys can actually do it. And he showed us an example through him because he was ready.
That's it.
And I believe that he was here also for that pandemic. Because his response when pandemic came, he called the entire country to fast and pray for 3 days.
Of course. That was the thing that impressed us the most.
And mind you this, that he was a chemistry guy. He was a chemistry guy.
Yeah, he's not
so
an ignorant.
He was a scientist.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was not a he was a scientist. He was not ignorant.
Right.
But he called the entire country to fast and pray for 3 days because he knew what was going on. 3 days, people they fasted and prayed with all their religions. Muslims they did, Christians did, everybody for 3 days, and after that, he called for 1 week to just give Thanksgiving prayer.
Oh no, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people that went there. Okay. Not only that, he decided, okay, I'm not gonna lock down, which a lot of people criticized him, but and also you remember the case of when they came and he had to try it in different animals and everything to see if it's clear and everything. Yes. Yeah, papaya and results came.
Oil,
exactly. And he was talking even about the masks that are coming from outside that don't use it, use your own. He spoke about it, and what he did, a lot of Western countries bashed him. Western media bashed him,
why they were bashing him though.
which I wrote the spoken word about it. I'll show with you guys in a moment. But they did that. But surprisingly, 1 year, 2 years later, they were doing exactly the same thing. They opened up their countries because they were locked down. They opened up the countries. They started to say, you know what, we need to live with this because it's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. We need to copy with it. That's the same thing he did when he just came out. 2 years later, the guy was living in the future. 2 years later, they are deciding to do the same thing that he did 2 years ago, and nobody acknowledged it.
No, that's the thing now. There is an disinformation campaign surrounding his legacy, surrounding his accomplishments. And his accomplishments, for those of you who are not a Magufuli supporter, please don't be annoyed, okay? This don't be annoyed. This is not his accomplishment for his own benefit. This is the accomplishment of the nation. Everybody benefited.
Yeah.
Everyone benefited.
Absolutely.
So you shouldn't just remove the politics out of it.
Yeah.
Because this country's economy grew or maintained itself during the so-called pandemic.
That's the reason.
Economies were devastated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're still feeling the devastation up to now.
Today. Yeah.
Okay.
But Tanzania is not the same.
And now because of that,
Yeah.
the current president is able to build on that foundation and to
Mm.
finish the projects,
Mm.
right? And to continue them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But had he not taken that stance, can you imagine where Tanzania would have been?
Oh man, we'll be like, I don't know where we'll be.
So we chose this one,
Yeah.
we prayed about it. Listen, I don't know. I have a testimony too I want to share.
Please.
If my wife is watching, because I don't know if she's watching, but this involves her. So we were praying, Heavenly Father, do we stay longer or do we go? Where do we go? I mean, is it your will for us to leave now? Because at that time, to travel from the Caribbean to Africa, you have to fly through New York.
Yeah.
In fact, that's true for till now. Most places in the Caribbean, at least that part in the Caribbean, you have to fly through New York, and we didn't want the test. We did not want that test. So I said, what would we do? Do we leave now while we can, or do we wait? And do we go to Tanzania, or do we try to go somewhere else? So my wife was praying. This is not religion, okay? And unless you're an atheist, you understand that people pray. Now
That
you
is
might pray to
faith.
someone else.
That is faith.
We pray to the Most High Yahweh, right? And she fasted and prayed. So a couple of weeks later on, she came into the room after praying, and she said, I had this weird experience. What was the experience? She was praying, and she started to say, yes, if I remember correctly, she said, yes, Lord, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, I'm not afraid. What was it now? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. You're in control. You're in control. And she didn't know why she was saying that. And suddenly she heard a loud explosion, a loud noise that came from the bedroom she was praying in the corner of that bedroom. By that time, we had suitcases packed.
Wow.
In the corner of the room with some of the things that we don't really use on a day-to-day basis. We were just like in a holding pattern. You know what happened? She said when she opened her eyes, the zipper on one of the main large suitcases and the zipper on one of the carry-on, the backpacks, the zippers were shaking.
Wow.
Violently shaking. She was the only one in the room.
Wow.
I said, wow. Okay. What does that tell you? You're praying to me, asking you whether you should leave or not, if it's okay. You are too late. You need to get ready. Get going. Get packing. Get packing.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. And so that's how we came here. Now, we were not prepared. And we thought we would just be here for like 2 or 3 months maximum. And then we would go. We didn't ever imagine that Ghana was going to stay shut down so long. It's just the other day that they opened up.
After 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, they opened up, but you had to have that thing. And we were not going to do that thing. So, yeah.
So you're here.
So we are here.
Thank God. Now we met.
Yes, yes.
We would never meet, you know.
That's it. That's it.
God has his own plans, my brother.
That's it.
Wow.
This country has tremendous potential.
Yeah.
You know.
It does.
It does.
It does. And you know, I'm trying to I'll share with you guys the Western media. I did this spoken word called Dear Western Media after he died, and how they were trying to paint him with so many stuff as if they were here. They didn't know anything, by the way, because most of his speeches he was always speaking in Swahili. Yeah. So,
but we were too lazy to even find somebody to translate.
Those speeches, they need to be translated.
Right.
For me, I already made a decision that we're gonna do it.
No one say
we're
lazy.
gonna
I'm
do
not
it.
talking about him, and I'm talking about those Western media.
Exactly.
They didn't hire somebody to translate so you can hear what you're saying. They just dismissed him.
But one of our plan here in Swahili Nation, we're gonna do that.
Yes,
we're gonna translate them. So we basically just hire somebody to just translate them into English, and we'll be sharing with them with you guys. So yeah, I made this spoken word. Somebody wrote some stuff, and I had to do it to just talk to them what he did in English. So I want to share that with you guys. before we come back and we wrap up this session for today.
Sure.
But this radical truth, my wish is that we're gonna continue to have different topics, in the coming future. So you guys, be ready, stay right there, and you guys are gonna participate as well. Please drop questions and everything that you have. We'll get some time to reply to them as well. And don't forget to like, subscribe, because when you like, this YouTube thing, they can suggest to as many people as they can. What we're talking about today, I don't know if they're going to suggest, but please do me a favor and like, because it's a radical truth, and radical truth is a scary truth. But yeah, without truth,
it is what it is. It's the truth.
Yeah. Truth shall set you free. Right. So you do that, guys. And I'm gonna share with you this video. And I know most of you guys might get sad because of the footage and all those stuff. But I need to share this with you guys.
I miss him. We talk about him all the time.
Myself here.
He's the role model for African leaders.
Yeah.
If they would only humble themselves, right, and learn from him.
And some people, they're talking about his aggressiveness and everything.
You have to be.
But the point that Africa we are at, we need a leader like that. We definitely need a leader like that. And for him, he had to be that way because people, they were not getting him. No. They started to get him after he's gone. That's when they started to get him that.
And that's true for any great leader. They always get them after they're gone.
Yeah. Why should we not remember these things right now, while people are still here? It's very important. So let me share this here. And for you guys to see, and even for my brother here to see, and then we'll be back. It is the bulldozer. Right.
That's what they call him. Yes, the bulldozer.
Better to die as a hero than to live as cowards. This is for you, Mr. President. He refused to bow down to them. He refused to accept their ideology. He refused to travel abroad, but rather to save Tanzanians. He loved Tanzania. He loved Africa. He kept God first in everything. He never missed a worship service. He reduced his own salary to save his people. He was a godly man. Before he died, he prayed for all the doctors in the room. He saw it coming, but that didn't stop him. He kept going and doing what is right in the eyes of God. He wasn't a perfect man, but Tanzania is a better place right now than ever before. He walked the talk, he fought the good fight, he finished the race, he kept the faith. Dear Western media, I tend to oversleep on Saturdays as my weeks are normally very, very long. So I woke up to my young cousin and Demando sitting in front of the telly watching the sending off of our dear president. I watched as his motorcade rode down the roads of Dar es Salaam. Wailing women and men tore off their kangas and t-shirts and laid them on the roads with the motorcades riding on them. People stood along the roads holding up banners that expressed what Magufuli was to them, and they were all full of love and admiration. Wananchi are wailing with the heaviest heart. This man was loved. Western media. Did he make mistakes? Oh yes, he did, plenty. He was not an angel after all. Not too, he was very flawed. But he stood for the people of Tanzania from the get-go, for the common Mwananchi, the one who hardly ever has a voice. In fact, he used to say over and over again that he is the president of the poor. When Magufuli did not lock down the country, he was thinking of his people, the common Mwananchi. Magufuli did not want us to come to you with kept hands as it is always expected by you. He wanted his people to stand on their feet with pride. He wanted his people to stop being neo-colonized. Not shutting down the economy of Tanzania drove the country to become a leading economy. We know the Western world did not like him. Of course, how could you have felt anything good for one who was always against you? One who wanted to give Africa back a voice and strength? Magufuli worked hard at stopping the agenda of colonial exploitation of Tanzanians' wealth. He worked hard to build infrastructure that could be used by Tanzania so we can start successfully among ourselves and Africa as a whole without the hindrance of unreliable roads. Utilizing the natural resources that Tanzania has, Magufuli was able to develop Tanzania from a third world country into a middle class economy within just a short period of time. If I was your shoes, I most probably would have hated him too. Understandably, as the Western world simply cannot be without exploiting Africa. Let me tell you more. Magufuli was God-fearing. He was diligent. He was morally courageous. He had progressive vision. He has principle-centered vision. Magufuli demonstrated a selfless and people-driven leadership that continues to inspire the Mwananchi. Magufuli was one of the few leaders that believed in his continent abilities. He despised and acted against corruption. He chose to be a true African statesman. Magufuli loved his country with a passion. Magufuli loved his continent. He was so proud of his continent that he was ready to die for it. Not everybody liked him, and he was not without his critics. This is simply the way of the world, and not everything he did was agreeable. Again, it is the way of the world. Like the opposition parties, which naturally would, as it is the job for an opposer in believing that they can do better. Is that not their job? Just like a mistress will oppose the wife, it comes with a job description. I agree that in some incidences he could have done better, but the right that he did has been strongly felt. I am now watching as Mwananchi are bidding farewell to a fallen giant, and Tanzania is wailing. Western media. The National Stadium is filled to the brim, as it was earlier this morning at the St. Peter's Church, where a mass had been held for him. Tanzania is crying because we know what we have. Having said this, I have a question for you, Western media. With your world being so full of faults and ugliness, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? I humbly ask that. You use that energy you have on Africa on your planks. Tanzanians, let us be like Magufuli. Let us all stand for truth, moral courageous, and emotional fortitude. For this is the best way to stand up to bullies. As the dear auntie says, let us continue loving Africa and standing for Africa. Lala Salama, Baba Magufuli. Lala Salama. A great son of the soil. We thank you for your leadership. We celebrate you, Baba. Tanzanians, God heard our prayers, and He will not be silent. He will not be silent. He has been there before Magufuli. He has been there during Magufuli, and He is going to continue to be there even right now. Mark my words.
Lakini ninajua Watanzania wananipenda pamoja na ninyi. Ninajua ninayoyafanya ni kwa maslahi mapana ya Watanzania, hasa Watanzania maskini. Kwa hiyo ndugu zangu, tuendelee kuchapa kazi, tuendelee kumtanguliza Mungu mbele, kila mmoja kwa imani yake, lakini tujenge Tanzania yetu. Mimi ni mtumishi wenu, na nataka niwaambie ndugu zangu, siku moja mtanikumbuka. Na mimi ninajua mtanikumbuka kwa mazuri, si kwa mabaya, kwa sababu nimesacrifice maisha yangu kwa ajili ya Watanzania maskini. Kwa hiyo tusimame pamoja, tusibaguane kwa vyama, tusibaguane kwa ajili ya dini zetu, tusibaguane hata kwa makabila yetu. Sisi tuijenge Tanzania.
That's it. Yeah. You never saw that. No, that is our second channel. But I think I'm gonna upload in the first channel as well. It's in our second channel, One Africa. I shared the link in the comment section. You guys, you can check it out. You can see that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's
It's
Irish.
I had to do that because a lot of people were scared and all those stuff. And I remember I was in Korea when I made this, and my job, it was just to comment these words everywhere. So I went to CNN, I went to BBC, those YouTube videos, news. I put it there, and I went even to one of our brothers. He was in the Daily Show. Trevor Noah himself as well. They got him as well.
Trevor
He
Noah.
spoke. Yeah,
Okay, from
Trevor
South
Noah.
Africa.
Yeah, he also
Okay.
spoke, a lot of negative
Right.
about he's there. So hard to go to Daily Show as well to comment there, to be like, you're a brother, you shouldn't be say things like this, no matter who you're working for. Yeah, and it's there. You guys can check it out. I share the link in the comment section, and I think I will upload here as well. This is the video. It's there. Yeah. So
Wow.
anything you want to say
I think
after watching
I
that?
think first of all, it's an excellent response,
Mm.
and it's also a tribute
Yeah.
to him and his legacy.
Mm.
Um, I am happy that you have that,
Mm.
and it's available for people to see, because a lot of people
Mm.
um, still don't know who he is or who
Yeah.
he was.
Mm.
And I'm talking about in the diaspora.
Yeah.
I think um, I think one thing that you can do, and I already see that you're doing it and you want to do it,
Mm.
uh, is to make sure that people know, make
Yeah.
sure they have access to this video and information. Because I personally believe he's the greatest leader of the past 100 years. I know that's a very strong statement.
Yeah.
False on all towards. I don't know whether it was false. I'm not here, so I didn't know what he did was wrong. But
Yeah.
what I do know is he has a lot to show for what he did in 5 years.
Mm.
And I think that young people need to be reminded
Mm.
of his contribution and others like him,
Mm.
so that they can be challenged
Mm.
and inspired
Yeah.
to rise
Yeah.
to the challenge.
Mm. Absolutely. Well, I don't know what to say. We have been for almost 3 hours. So
Wow.
yeah, right before we close this conversation, somebody says this conversation makes my heart smile.
Wow.
Blessed up, man. Yeah, we're going to close now, but I would love to give you maybe the final remarks, anything that you'd love to highlight before we close this session.
The only thing is, the first thing I want to say is thank you for extending this invitation to me.
Yes, sir.
I didn't reach out to you for that purpose.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yes,
just
absolutely.
let you know about a local NGO that needs help in their fight against this alphabet agenda.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to explain why I think that we don't have much time as a continent and as a people in the diaspora
Yeah.
to unify. And here we are. So thank you. For those of you who are viewing this now, and those who would be viewing this after it's uploaded, I want to challenge you, wherever you live, whether it's now in the continent or in the Caribbean diaspora or in Europe or in the United States or Latin America, wherever you are, I want to challenge you to recognize who you are. Find out who you are if you don't already know. And once you know, I want to challenge you to come home. Once you know who you are, I think you'll realize that there is no future for you. There's no future for me or anybody on this continent, indigenous Africans, unless we build it. I'm saying it again, there's no future. And so until the next opportunity presents itself, I think I want to stop there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I don't know what to say, but I need to wrap this up. But I really appreciate, sir, for your willingness to have this conversation, because as you said, when you reached out to me, it was nothing about this. It was just to talk, to connect, to get to know one another. But as we were talking, I realized that no, these are kind of conversation that they need to be recorded, because it's not just for me personally, but it's for everybody. And I felt that when we were talking, and I was really fascinated by the amount of wisdom that you do have, and I think that's what we need as Africa. The voice like you, as is what we need. And for me, I'm ready to use this platform to make sure that that knowledge is going to our people. If I was, let's say, if I was close to Magufuli, um I will be recording him every single day, take everything that he has for my
Yes.
children, and for the next generation. But he did pretty good job in all of his speeches and everything. So when we get this chance, and I knew today is our first time, we just met for the first time, but I knew that we need to record this because we don't have time. The time
We
is
don't
now.
have time.
And I'm that kind of person. That's why even when he asked me yesterday that, oh, we're gonna have to meet, and I said, let's meet tomorrow, because I like doing things.
I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest with you.
Mm,
If I may, I forgot
mm.
to mention something just briefly. We alluded to, or we mentioned about this NGO. Can
Yeah.
I mention?
Yeah, definitely. Go
We,
ahead.
we spoke about the alphabet agenda,
Mm,
and I only now realize that it's now entered this country, or it has been in this country. But there's a local NGO that's been in existence for some years now,
mm.
doing very good work.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you uh, to consider
Mm,
how you can support Bright Child
mm.
Development Tanzania.
Yeah.
The CEO is Mr. Jeffrey
Mm,
Akuo.
mm,
I don't know if I'm saying it right.
mm.
And I'm hoping that we as diasporans,
Mm,
those of you who are watching, and even local
mm,
uh, people, Tanzanians,
mm,
and Africans, wherever you are listening from,
mm,
would begin to support
mm.
local African, reputable, vetted
Yeah.
NGOs,
Mm,
and don't leave
mm,
the work that needs to be done for Africa and its children
mm.
to foreigners.
Yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%. And let me tell you this right now, based based to what we talked about, and we had a conversation about that, that is done. It is done. We as a Swahili nation, One Africa, I think you'll play that role to connect us, to get to know this.
Of course.
Yeah, to get to know them, and to really collaborate, because based what I heard, it's one of our missions. We need to do that. We need to raise our own kids. We need to take care of them. We need to make sure that no African kid is been, taken away from the continent, or taken away here for any other agendas. Yeah, because from the age of 0 to 6 is a very important age. Very important. And even after that, also very important, because they don't know anything, by the way. So yeah, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that we bring that. So I can't wait to share with you guys who are watching. Can't wait to share with you guys what is happening, yeah, and everything. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So guys,
All right.
thank you so much for coming here today, for being here with us. We have had really nice conversation. Appreciate for everything that has happened. You can just come close. Yeah, I appreciate everything that has happened, and the conversation that we had. Thank you for you guys for liking this stream. For those who did not subscribe, I appreciate you guys for subscribing. And I want to send my regards or my thanks to this one person here, Lacha Coding Camp. for your donation. Thank you so much for 1.99. I appreciate that. And I want to appreciate from everybody else who have been commenting here in the session. We definitely not going to be able to go through this comment section, but my appreciation to all of you guys. We appreciate you for all the comments and everything. And as I always do, man, I forgot today to start with the prayer, but I'll end with the prayer as well. That's the custom, that's the culture in here. And as I pray, I'll remember our brothers and sisters in jail as well, you know, to pray for them. Absolutely. Burkina Faso, Mali, our Guinea, African brothers and sisters, Sudan, Ethiopia, Congo, you know, so many countries in Africa. So I'll just remember them in my prayer. And you guys, you can pray as well. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for today and for this wonderful conversation that I just had here with my brother. Thank you for this divine connection, because just yesterday I did not know, but here we are today, been speaking for more than five hours, I believe, more than that. We've been just connecting and sharing, and I just return all the glory to you. Thank you for this connection. Thank you for this relationship. And thank you for all this conversation that we've had. You know, hundreds and hundreds of Africans have been listening, and a lot of them, they'll be watching later on. I just thank you, God, because for everything that you're doing, God, we're opening our hearts and our spirit ready to be used by you. And most importantly, standing for our people who have been struggling for a long time here in the continent and outside of the continent. God, we want to be a vessels that you will use to bring about liberation, to bring about redemption, to bring about unity once again. And we know that we cannot do this without you being with us. Nothing is impossible to you. So when we're with you, nothing is impossible to us. We thank you, God. We thank you for brothers and sisters who are planning even to come back home. Some of them, I know they're scared. Some of them are worrying. They don't know where they're going to start. But we just pray that, God, your spirit and your grace will be upon them. You lead and guide them. You speak to them. Even through this conversation, they will know clearly where to go and when to leave. They will know. They will take that step of faith to move and to leave. Even those who are here in the continent. God, we pray for safety. We pray that your spirit continue to lead and guide them. Above all, God, we pray for our families, for our kids, that in this fight that we have chosen to do it, not privately, but publicly, we pray that your spirit will give us strength and courage and wisdom to move, God, regardless of all the battles and tribulations that we're going to face. We're going to have that hope inside of us, believing that we're not alone. And we're here for that. So we give you praise. We remember our brothers and sisters in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Congo, Somalia, Ethiopia, God, Sudan. We remember everybody, Zimbabwe and all, Libya, all these countries in Africa that are struggling and going through difficulties, whether it's about religion or tribalism, or whether it's about, coups or wars or conflicts, whatever it is, God, pray that may you remember this continent once again, and may you remember our people. May you bring our people back together for us to stand in that broken walls, God, so that we may be the bridge for peace, bridge for love, and bridge for unity. We give you glory and honor and praise for everything that has happened here today. In your precious name, Christ, we pray. Amen. Amen. Guys, we love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys another time. You never know what is coming next, but we appreciate you. We love you, and stay safe. Until next time, Swahili Nation, One Africa. I'll see you guys very soon. I love you guys. Hey guys, 93% of people who are watching our channel, Swahili Nation, have not yet subscribed. Only 7% of Hey guys, 93% of people who are watching our channel, Swahili Nation have not yet subscribed. Only 7% of the viewers in this channel have subscribed. What does that mean? It means a lot of people are coming in this channel to watch videos, but they do not want to be engaged, to be a part of this family and to support this movement and what we're working for towards One Africa in our generation. So my request to all of you guys, if you really like our content, you like what we're doing here in Swahili Nation, please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. Don't do just that. Turn on notification button. Don't stop there. Like the videos we share. Share with your friends. Leave your comments, your opinion, so that we may actually interact in the comment section, know what is happening. If you would like to support us even more financially, you can join the Patreon. The link is below. And also you can join us and become a member of this family. So please, guys, do us a favor. When you subscribe, when you like, when you share, you help us to reach to as many people as we can. We want this world to be filled with the positive message about Africa and One Africa, and we want the message to go all across the world. So help us by becoming part of this family. I love you.
So the lie began from the very beginning of time, right? And I can ask you one question right now. What does history tell us about Africa? Who discovered Africa? If you write right now on Google who discovered Africa, you find out that is one white man that he came and discovered Africa. And you can ask yourself that how can you discover a place that already exists? How can you discover a place that people already live in that place? It is impossible, but that's what the history tells us. That's what people believe about Africa, that it was discovered by a white man. This guy, he came, and then he went back, he gave a report, and then the next we know is colonialism, because those guys, they sat somewhere to divide Africa like a piece of cake, because they discovered it, they own it, it belonged to them. But that is us, we discovered, we're the first people to know. And today you have a lot of people around the world that they think that Africa was discovered by them.
So Africa, a place where poverty and pandemic diseases are originated. The least wealthy continent per capita. The land where the only things to be found are animals, corrupted leaders, poor kids, dirty water and civil wars. People who are in need for help, donations and support, aka the NGO's motherland. For others, honestly, Africa is just a very hot, dark and sad place everyone wishes to escape one day. Well, whether you're an African or not, this thinking isn't new to you because you have read, heard or felt the same way before. Just type the word Africa on Google right now. Turn on your TV and see what the NGOs portray. Watch movies from Hollywood. Ask your mama, friends, or ask yourself, what is Africa? Yet if you're still struggling to believe, let me ask you this. What comes to your mind when you hear the word Africa? Tell me the first thought that comes to your mind right now. Honestly, tell me right now. But what really is Africa? What is Africa? Listen, there are many theories about the name, but one that is close to the truth is Al-Kebulan. This name translates to Mother of Mankind, or according to other sources, the Garden of Eden, the place where love, peace, and unity dwells. Al-Kebulan is an extremely old word. Many nations in Africa use this word, including Ethiopians, Nubians, Moors, and Numidians. For me, this isn't just the theory, but the truth. My truth I choose to believe in. As cliche as it sounds, that's the future I'm hoping for. The tomorrow I'm fully determined to see. The dream I am convinced and dedicated to fighting for until it happens. What is Africa for you? Hey guys, 93% of people who are watching our channel, Swahili Nation, have not yet subscribed. Only 7% of the viewers in this channel have subscribed. What does that mean? It means a lot of people are coming in this channel to watch videos, but they do not want to be engaged, to be a part of this family and to support this movement and what we're working for towards one Africa in our generation. So my request to all of you guys, if you really like our content, you like what we're doing here in Swahili Nation, please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. Don't do just that. Turn on the notification button. Don't stop there. Like the videos we share. Share with your friends. Leave your comments, your opinions, so that we may actually interact in the comment section, know what is happening. If you would like to support us even more financially, you can join the Patreon. The link is below. And also you can join us and become a member of this family. So please guys, do us a favor. When you subscribe, when you like, when you share, you help us to reach to as many people as we can. We want this world to be filled with the positive message about Africa and one Africa, and we want the message to go all across the world. So help us by becoming part of this family. I love you.